Okay, members, we'll get started here now. It's just gone 4 o'clock. I'd like to welcome you all to this month's meeting of our Environment and Regeneration Committee. Just a few house rules, I suppose, before we get underway with the agenda. I'll take the notice and the summons meeting first. If Karen, you want to take the attendance there, please.
Thank you, Chair. To all members of Environment and Regeneration Committee, you're hereby summoned to attend the monthly meeting of Environment and Regeneration Committee to be held remotely on Wednesday the 8th of December at 4 p.m. And I'll take the roll call. Alderman Morris Devaney.
Here, Karen.
Thank you. Alderman Derek Hussey.
Here, Karen.
Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
Here, Karen.
Thank you. Alderman David Ramsey. Alderman Ramsey, are you here?
I think he'll be on later, Karen.
Okay, no problem. Councillor John Boyle. Councillor Boyle, are you here? Okay. Councillor Angela Dobbins. Councillor Dobbins, are you here? Councillor Boyle, are you there? Okay. Councillor Stephen.
John Boyle has a message. Sorry, Karen. John Boyle has a message in the chat box there. He's there, but he's trying to unmute. He can't unmute.
Okay, no problem. That's fine. Councillor Stephen Edwards.
And sure, Karen.
Thank you. Councillor Rachel Ferguson.
Here, Karen.
Thank you. Councillor Christopher Jackson.
And sure, Karen.
Councillor Dan Kelly. Councillor Kelly, are you here? Councillor Emma McGinley.
Apologies for Emma, Karen.
Okay, no problem. Councillor Roy McHugh. Yeah. Councillor Maeve O'Neill.
Here, Karen.
Thank you. And Councillor Brian Tierney.
Here, Karen.
Thank you. I'll just go back and check. Is Councillor Dobbins on the line yet? No. Okay, no problem.
Karen John Boyle here. I got my mute button would not unmute, but I am here and when you were.
Okay, no problem. Thank you for letting me know. Chair, would you like me to do the broadcast statement for remote meeting?
Yes, thank you, Karen.
Thank you. I'd like to remind everyone who is in remote attendance that this meeting will be broadcast live via the Council's YouTube channel and will be available for viewing by the public and media. The broadcast will also be available for repeated viewing at a later date. The broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with Council protocol. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. By participating in the meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to the use and storage of those images for broadcast or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. And a copy of the Council's privacy notice may be found on the Council website. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks for that, Karen. Members, item 4 is declarations of members' interest. Any member wishes to declare, they can do so now or put it in the chat box as we go through each item. Just before we take our presentation, just like to inform members that obviously the roads service report or DFI road service report is usually a fairly lengthy item agenda. So we just want to reiterate you should have received via email the form for putting down any constituency issues you may have. The report is not for raising constituency issues, just to comment on the works and the report. and questions for officers via that avenue. So just to reiterate that, members, and because this usually is a lengthy item, could I ask members to try and keep whatever comments or questions they have succinct as possible. Thank you. Furthermore, members, after consultation with the Chief Executive and the Director of Environment Regeneration, we will be sticking to standing orders of a 4-hour meeting. So I intend to take the presentation and then go through the items in open business that are for decision, at which point then we will go into confidential, and if any member then has any item they wish to comment on under matters for information, we can then come out of confidential and take those then. So just ask you to bear that in mind. So members, is there anybody wishes to make a declaration of interest? If not, we'll now move to our presentation today, which is obviously to receive DFI and their autumn report. And I think we have Harry, Declan and Robert on. So boys, if who I don't know who's going to take it, but who's ever starting off, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's Harry Gallagher here. I don't know if the name comes up on the screen, but yes, I'll be presenting the start. I'll do the introduction to the report and touch on some SRI schemes, and then I'll pass over to Declan, who'll be able to give an update on the work on in the programme itself, a whole range of schemes, and then I'll pass you over finally to Robert McCartney, who'll do a brief update on the maintenance schemes that are going on. So that's the sequence we'll have, and we'll try not to keep you too long. I know this can be quite lengthy. We'll just do a summary of the report. So anyway, my name is Harry Gallagher, and I'm the acting divisional manager for Western Division. And as I say, I'm accompanied by Robert and Declan this evening. No report was presented last autumn, so it's great to be back and to be presenting a report, even if it's in this virtual environment. The report's similar in format to those we've presented in previous years. However, it's expanded, reflecting the greater influence the Council has on the preparation of our schemes, and also includes active travel, walking and cycling measures as a separate section within the draft programme, and that's a new section for us. And they say the report contains a lot of detailed information, and rather than presenting it line by line, we'll give you a summary of the contents and be pleased to take questions at the end of this presentation. So the report contains the works already completed in the Derry City and Strabane area during year 21-22, but also sets out our programme of schemes being undertaken for the remainder of the financial year, and indeed the schemes we would like to do in future years. So it's an aspirational aspect to the report, what we would like to do. Earlier on this year, in planning for the future of transport, Time for Change, this document was published back in June, and at that time the Minister set out her ambition that active travel becomes a real means of change within towns and cities, in an effort to cut emissions and improve health and well-being, and to better connect families and communities. And the department really is at the forefront of delivering this ambition for the Minister, and will increasingly be taking the opportunity to increase the allocation of road space for walking, cycling and public transport on our urban streets. And recognising the role these streets have as community places and their ability to help us achieve these new outcomes, Council will therefore see an increased level of investment being targeted at delivering a higher standard of walking and cycling infrastructure. And I do believe that, I believe as this progresses, you will see change in the calibre of walking and cycling infrastructure that we do deliver. A dedicated team has been set up within Western Division. That's headed by Donna McGarvey. Some of you may have met Donna so far, but if you haven't, I believe I'll probably be presenting some of these reports in the coming months, so you will meet Donna, but she's the head of the walking and cycling team. But alongside our active objectives, Vision continues to progress strategic road improvements, including the A5 dualling flagship project, where it is hoped that a public inquiry can be reconvened during 2022 next year, and that the statutory and environmental process brought to a satisfactory conclusion thereafter. You'll know that the first phase of the A6 Ramsdown to Castle Dawson opened up in August 2019, and the final section of that dual from Toome to Castle Dawson fully opened in May of this year. Construction work continues on the new dual carriageway on the A6 between Drumahoe and Dungiven. There's a lot of structures on this work. I'm sure anybody going past them will have seen them. 16 structures are now substantially complete. The big new bridge at Liberty Glen and Burntullet, you'll see those if you're going past on the road. And the new park and ride became operational at Drumahoe in July, and a new park and ride or park and share at Claudy is also well advanced. Also on our strategic road fund, the A2 Buncrana Road, well, we know that is a key arterial road in the northwest of the city, and the proposals to upgrade the existing road to a dual carriageway were presented back in 2019. But we are aware within the Department of Design concerns for this proposal, and an environmental impact report is planned for public consultation in 2022 to help inform the next steps for this project. We'll continue to deliver our programmes whilst dealing with the impact of COVID on the organisation and contractors, and this has required us to adopt new ways of working, and indeed this meeting itself is the type of digital technology that we're all starting to become more and more familiar with, and generally it seems to be working reasonably well whenever I can manage to remember to unmute myself. Divisional allocations have now been confirmed, and I can note that the capital side, these are similar to last year. The funds being made available for blue-green infrastructure, including walking and cycling, for structural maintenance, safer routes to school, including the part-time 20s, which you may have seen going up at some of the schools around the area. And unfortunately, we have had difficulties, contractual difficulties across Northern Ireland with our resurfacing contracts. And we currently do not have an asphalt resurfacing contract in the Derry City and Strabane area. And regrettably, some schemes cannot be delivered in this financial year. These schemes will, of course, be progressed as contractor resources become available, and indeed will be carried forward if that doesn't manage to happen within this financial year. However, despite that, that's not the only contractual resource we have. We have many other ways of delivering worthwhile schemes, and funding has been set aside for a roads recovery fund, which is being used to address areas of immediate concern and need across the road network. Around 1.8 million has been allocated to the Derry City and Strabane area, and the department will continue to identify those roads most in need of repair and prioritise this work alongside other ongoing priorities. I'm also pleased to note that our resource allocation allows us to maintain the road in a similar way to last year, including sufficient funding to maintain the full street lighting repair service and our winter service. And our teams continue to develop local transport safety schemes and maintenance programs to enhance the safety and provide measures to enable more people to walk and cycle as part of their everyday routine. And as the year progresses, we'll continue to bid for additional funding to maintain the integrity of the road network, and additional schemes will be implemented as funding becomes available throughout the year. At this stage, I'll now pass the meeting over to Network Development Engineer Declan McBride, and say he will provide you with a summary of the schemes that we plan to take forward in the coming years, alongside an update of the schemes that we've been carrying out in this current financial year.
Okay, thank you, Harry, and good afternoon, Chairperson and members of the Environment and Regeneration Committee. As Harry has mentioned, you've all received a copy of the most recent report, the Autumn Report, which sets out the local transport safety measures draft programme for 2022 to 2024 for the Derry City and Strabane District Council area. Now, the two-year programme contains about 55 proposed schemes, including new footway, shared use footway, cycleway, junction improvement, part-time 20 schemes outside schools, traffic calming schemes, street lighting improvements, and other pedestrian measures. And no doubt when this is completed, this will have a significant improvement throughout the road network. And members, just to reiterate, all the schemes that you would see in the report have been assessed in accordance with our current procedures, guidelines and policy, and are considered to be high priority schemes for the council area. As was the case in previous years, the level of funding for local transport and safety measures is limited, and approximately the current year we're in, it's about 400,000 has been allocated. And as you can imagine, the programme is oversubscribed, so therefore it can take a number of years before some schemes are actually delivered on the ground. But I would just want to say that the department is fully committed to delivering all of these schemes, subject to funding being available and obviously a suitable design being achieved, and providing that there are no difficulties in acquiring land. So I'd like to highlight some of the schemes, and again, as Harry had mentioned, this time around we've a new chapter in the report, and it's the blue-green active travel, and that's on page 7. It starts on page 7 of your report, and this is where we, in Western Division, like the other divisions, we've got a blue-green active travel team, and there's 5 schemes shown here in this report, page 7 to page 12, and that represents about £1 million worth of development. The schemes included on the very first one there on page 7. You can see the photograph. Some of you may recognise that, but basically the scheme will connect the Drumahoe District Park, which is across the road from the old park and ride site, and that'll bring a new footway stroke cycleway up to along the Glenshane Road up to its junction with Drumahoe Road. So that scheme there is in there, and hopefully it will be progressed. Page 8 of the report, we have a scheme being proposed out on the Cluny Road, to be the old Cluny Road, away from the dual carriageway between Campsie and Broadbridge, to improve the active travel facility out there for cycle and walking. And again on page 9 we have an extension to what's happening at the moment. It's on the Maydown Road. It's phase 3, we're calling it phase 3 of the Strathfoyle network. But the overall thing basically is that what's happening at Campsie to Broadbridge, the overall objective is to have all this linked up right through into the Strathfoyle network. And then some of this we're collaborating with council. So let me get down. If we go to page 12 of the council, the autumn report, it's highlighting one that's been in the report for quite some time, Strabane Town Centre Footbridge. But that scheme will be progressed now under the City Deal initiative, and again we're working with the council in making that scheme happen. Under other schemes, other local transport and safety schemes, if you could go to page 14, there's been a scheme in there for quite some time as well, but that scheme, it's the Bells Park Road, Orchard Road Junction Improvement Scheme, and that scheme is progressing as well in terms of land acquisition, and the design has been fully completed on that. If we move on to page 17, I've shown here some more additional schemes which at this stage are at feasibility stage. but hopefully they will be delivered in time. But it will take a bit of time to get these schemes worked up into viable schemes. The first one there is the Craigavon Bridge lower deck, where we're seeking to provide a controlled pedestrian crossing, which would be for cycle and walking, and it would give you a direct link to the network and connect on to the transport hub. In Strabane at Railway Street, there's the link road between the Lifford Road roundabout and the smaller roundabout just outside the fire station. Again, there's a need there for a controlled crossing because it is heavily used. So that's a scheme we'd like to progress. And the third one there, it has been a scheme that has been about for quite some time. Northern Division have been looking at it many years ago, but we are hoping to build up a case for that scheme to be delivered. And that's the Brocka Road with its junction at Tamnairn Road. And that would serve quite a large community in just up the Brocka Road to Tamnairn community. Moving on, page 18 of the report, we have a number of schemes, 5 schemes in total that our bridges section have shown here. And the first one is Craigavon Bridge, where they're proposing to put in it's an anti-roosting feature, which is a problem on the lower deck. So they're hoping to install that in the next 2 years, basically. If we move up to Newton Stewart, there's 2 schemes on page 19 and page 20, where we have the Cobble Bridge on the Newton Stewart bypass, Great Northern Road, and also Crossballinree Bridge, which is on the bypass. So there's some structural improvement works to be carried out on those 2 bridges. Can we move to page 22, where we have the draft street lighting program? Basically, there's about 1.5 million to be spent here between capital replacement renewal schemes and also the continuing on with replacements to LED, which is a more efficient light mechanism. So within that, you can see the various schemes that are being proposed by our street lighting team. Now, on page, just before I would hand you back to Harry, if you were to go to page 37, please. That basically here you're getting an update on schemes for the current financial year, and the long-awaited weight restriction for Claddagh. Hopefully that will be in place in December. The legislation was made back, I think, in November, and we're basically in the stage now where we're engaging with the contractor to put the signs up, and then the scheme will be up and running at that stage, and hopefully that will happen by mid-December. There's a number of schemes there that we'd just like to highlight that have been completed. The first one there under pedestrian measures with the provision of a token crossing on Skill Road. It's a dual carriageway, and that's, I know any time I'm driving along there, it certainly was a much needed scheme, and it makes it a lot easier for people to cross back and forward at that location. We've also had a token crossing and indeed a speed reduction at the Maydown Road. Got a token crossing in place. Just last week, the works commenced on Greenhall Road in the city, where there'll be a puffin crossing installed, which will be of great assistance in that location. Now, members, if you go to page 30, next page, there in traffic calming, and if you were to go back to the spring we're hoping for out of these. But basically, well, you can see under the status, most of those schemes have been through the process has been successful, i.e. We haven't received objections, or for inquiries or objections, we were able to modify the scheme to suit everybody. So those schemes, really what we're hoping to do is contractor on board to get these schemes completed in the year, which basically means we'll be pushing hard to get these schemes started in the new year. And then what we're all now familiar with is the part-time 20s, and phase 1 was completed back in September of this year, and there's another 9 schools in phase 2 that are listed there, which are at design stage, and we'll be pushing on with them again in the new year. And lastly, can I just bring you to page 40, just to highlight, it's another scheme which will probably move into the blue-green active travel team, but at the moment it's an improved footway and possibly a shared use path for cycling on the Limavady Road, and that's a scheme that will be of great assistance to link. It'll continue on because we do have a shared use path from Carr Roundabout up as far as Broomhill Avenue, and so basically from that location, i.e. Foyle College, we will have a link all the way to Foyle Arena, which then gives you a complete link down onto the Greenway along the river. So we're very much hoping that that scheme can be progressed. We're still at design stage, and that will be progressed as quick as we can. That is all, members, that I would want to highlight at this stage. Thank you very much. I'll pass you back to Harry, I believe. Is Harry on mute there?
Harry, can you hear us?
Hello, is Harry on mute?
I think he is, Declan. Harry, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Right. Okay. Harry, are you? Is it come back to you?
It's famous. It's the famous line, isn't it? You know, we all hear these days. You're on mute. The button wouldn't work. Thanks, Declan. It's a very comprehensive program you've provided there, and a good summary of it. I'm just going to pass it to Robert now to give us a very brief summary of where we are with some of the maintenance schemes, and then we'll be able to take questions at the end. Thank you for that, Declan.
Thank you, Harry. Chair, members, lamentably, I think my report is going to be quite brief because, as Harry alluded to earlier, the lack of contractor resource for resurfacing has severely impacted our programs for this incoming year. If I could direct you to pages 30 and 31 of the report, you will see that the vast majority of the schemes listed there, which was our list of schemes that we intended to progress this year, the vast majority have been delayed, and until contractor resource becomes available, we cannot move forward with those particular schemes. On a more positive note, you will see we delivered a full surface dressing program this summer, and that's listed there on pages 31 through to pages 35. And again, we have had quite a good progress. We've made good progress this year in dealing with various drainage problems that we have had on the network. Some were quite long standing. And I say that is outlined there in pages 35 and 36. So other than that, regrettably, I don't really have an awful lot to report. So I'll hand you back to yourself, Harry.
Thanks, Robert. And really that concludes the report. Now, I said a very brief summary through it, but I think that works best rather than going through every single item in it. And we'd be very pleased to take any questions that there are at this stage.
Thanks there to the three of you for giving us a succinct report there. I have a number of councillors who've indicated. First of all, we have Councillor Logue.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for letting me in. I'm not a member of this committee, and I appreciate being able to speak, and I'd like to just thank Harry, Declan and Robert for their presentation. It is, I suppose I would have to speak, I feel I would be speaking on behalf of all councillors, not just those within Sinn Féin, to say that we're deeply, deeply concerned regarding the delayed works because of the non-contractor to carry out those works. That is absolutely shocking and needs to be addressed. Just this morning, I went down to the NISRA statistics, and the neighbourhood renewal of the 5 neighbourhood renewal areas within the Derry City and Strabane District Council. I'm just going to, if you allow me, Chair, I'm just going to read you out a few of the statistics under the living environment indicators. And of that colour, when I talk about the standardised ratio of road defects, the NI average is 100. For Outer North, it is 192. For Outer West, it's actually double that at 200. For the water side, it is 189. For Strabane, it's 231. And for the area that I represent within the Moor Ward, the Triax neighbourhood area, it is nearly 300. It's nearly treble. That standardised ratio of road defects, that is absolutely shocking. And on top of that, we have no contractors to carry out the much needed work. I have to say, I do admire the Minister for her commitment to the active travel and the launch of her document, Time for Change. But I want to say it is time for change. And it's time for change that this council area is levelled up with the statistics of the NI average. Those are absolutely shocking, and I would ask you all to have a look at them. It's not me making them up, it's there in black and white. I did attend a consultation today from 12 to 1 that only got word about yesterday on the Minister's Time for Change document, and I did take part in that, but again, a lot more work needs to be done. But officials from the department here need to be taking a message back to the Minister from the Derry City and Strabane District Council that this is an intolerable situation. We do not have the contractors to carry out the much needed work. And on top of that, there are some areas within this council district that are treble the amount of defects as the rest of NI. That's shocking. That there is shocking, and that is not a case for investment in this area. Then I don't know what else. And I'm really sorry, but I was really annoyed to hear those statistics. And I do agree with active travel and creating greenways and all the rest of it. but we need to get our footpaths and our roads networks fixed before I think we start investing in anything else. I know the chair asked not to go into certain areas, and I'm not going to do that other than the flooding in Foyle Road. I did meet with your officials from like Robert and NI Water. That area has been flooding for near 30 years and it's getting worse. And you know, at that meeting, I was told there was no measures that could be done to alleviate that. I don't accept that on behalf of the residents that have to suffer that, and I am asking the department to go away and look at the defence mechanisms within the river to sort this issue out once and for all for the people who live in that area. And I suppose another issue is the residents' parking. 2012 residents were consulted. It's now 2021. We're going to 2022. Can I please get an update as to where that is at and when is it expected to be begin? I do welcome the lead lightning investment within the area. That is a good news story, but certainly I really do wish that I was, you know, having a more positive contribution to this meeting. But unfortunately, given those statistics that I have just read out and the amount of time regarding the residents' parking and the flooding especially in the Foyle Road areas, we need to see some change. And I would like that, you know, a letter be sent to the Minister on behalf of this council regarding those concerns that I have highlighted. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Logue. Harry, if you don't mind, we'll take another two councillors and we'll take them in groups rather than go through them individually. So I'll take Councillor Edwards now and followed by Councillor Tierney.
Chair, thanks for letting me in, and I do thank Harry, Declan and Robert for the presentation. I'd also like to wish David McKinley well in his retirement. I know he left DFA in recent weeks, so I wish him well in retirement. Chair, there's a number of issues. I'm going to keep it short. They're outlined in the report, so I'm going to keep it relevant to the report that was before the committee today. Firstly, I suppose, is A5, and it is hugely disappointing that the scheme is delayed, and especially most recently with the PAC report and the need to develop new environmental statements. But this scheme needs to go ahead. It will transform our council area and provide much needed safety improvements along the existing A5 road. I met with the Minister recently on it, and I believe that she and the department are think that it can still be delivered by 2028. I hope that's the case, but I'll remain optimistic in that one. Chair, just turning to my own DA, just a few comments. The Clary HGV, massively welcome that, lobbied intensely on it, especially over the last year. I know that the ban was officially came into force on the 29th of November. Feedback has been good. I met with residents over the weekend, but there's still obviously lorries on the road that shouldn't necessarily be there. So I'd just like to ask, when will the signage be going up, and whether DFA have any plans for policing it or engaging with the PSNI once they do go up. Next issue there, Mayor, is the Bells Park Orchard Road Junction. Very positive development. Rumble strips, I think, have made a big difference, and clearing the sight lines as well. It's great to see advancement there, and I know that DFA are acquiring the bar as well, so I think it's very, very positive for local area, and I do welcome that. And it's also good to see a scheme from Lega there outlined in the report. Curly Hill on page 16, Curly Hill Road. I'd just like to ask, are DFA putting up a crash barrier on that? I know that the road campers down into Alton Skiing there. It's an issue that's been raised with our office, Strabane Aguba, so I'd like to get some clarity on that. And finally, Chair, the traffic calming. I welcome the measures put into Drumna Bay Road in Sparmount. I'm grateful for more details on that. And as a final question, Chair, I would just like to ask whether the DFA, whether Harry and his team are aware of the PCSP speed indicator device figures. I think they were quite shocking, especially in our own DA, Chair. Victoria Bridge, Glebe were especially bad, but on the Strabane Road, even in Newton there was 85% of cars that were over the speed limit. And again, I know PSNA have responsibility there, but I'm just wondering whether DFA will be acting on these figures. And Chair, I could go into a lot more issues, winter pressure, salt boxes, so on, Strabane Footbridge, but I'm going to leave it there and I'll follow up on them issues independently. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Stephen. Our next indicated speaker is Councillor Tierney. Go ahead, Brian.
Chair, thank you. And as always, thanks to Harry, Declan and Robert for coming here, well, virtually coming here and providing the report. I, for one, was extremely interested when Councillor Lowe started giving us the standardised ratio for road defects across the Derry City and Strabane District Council area. It's something that I think that we should be looking more into. But I was shocked to hear that my DA within Outer North has the least road defects across this council area. I don't know when the last time that survey was done, but I don't think it's 100% accurate in terms of Outer North. But I suppose we'll have to have a look at that. In relation to other aspects of the report, I do welcome the fact that the Minister is taking a keen interest in active travel. Obviously, we're seeing a lot more people now getting out of the car and getting on the bike or on their feet to go about their business. And I think it's only right that the Minister does take a keen interest in this. And part of his report, Harry mentioned the works to the A6. And when you reach Castle Dawson heading to Belfast, it makes the drive a bit of a pleasure as opposed to what we were used to previously heading from the city and the Belfast. And I look forward to the current works that are underway there finishing and the full road network being opened up correctly. The A2 mentioned there that there were design concerns around the A2 and that a public consultation would take place in 2022. Can I ask, Chair, through you, has that been put back? Because I do think I remember at a previous meeting being told that that would take place by the end of this year. And if that's put back, then I would be keen to find out why. In terms of road surfacing contracts and the schemes, do we know how many are waiting down to the contractor issues? Do we know what kind of list we have there? Traffic calming measures or traffic management schemes, as they're now called in the report. I was disappointed to see that Lenamore Road isn't included in any current or planned traffic management schemes. Obviously, Declan and his team will be aware of the recent incident out in that road, and I think it's very, very important. And I know, Chair, you asked us not to go into specific issues, but I do have a genuine fear that someone is going to be killed on this road if we don't look at it very, very soon and put traffic calming measures in there very soon. I was also keen to read in the report, Chair, around the Rossall Street parking scheme, and Councillor Logue again referred to that and mentioned the public consultation which took place in 2012. I think that was the first one. I think where the department have gone wrong on this is at the very, very start with the title, the Rossall Street parking scheme. And as you read through the report, it actually says that the scheme that was mooted a number of years ago had been more or less turned down by local residents, and I can understand why. But I'm shocked to see that the department are now looking at a smaller scheme. Previously, I had told this meeting that my concerns around the Rossall Street parking scheme was that wherever you draw the line, the people who are parking in that area to get to their work in the city centre are only going to park there. If you draw that line, and the only one that I can see, the only obvious one that I can see that you could begin this on would be up William Street, over Laburnum Terrace, and back down Westland Street, people are going to park on the opposite side of that perimeter, and you're only going to push the problem further out. I think the department needs to look at that entire area, right out from the city centre, Clarendon Street, Asylum Road, right out to the Brandywell and into the Lakey Road. Otherwise, the scheme will not work. The residents in that area have been putting up with that parking nuisance for as long as I can remember, and I had lived in that area for most of my life. In relation to the street lighting replacement, and I understand the reason and the rationale behind the LED, the replacement with LED lights, but I would again encourage the department to consult with local residents when this is happening. Obviously, the replacement with LED lights is reducing the number of columns that are in a particular area, whilst probably providing the same amount of light, if not more. Residents do become security conscious, if you like, and those lights that may have been in back lanes or in back squares that have been taken away are making residents feel that little bit more unsafe. And I would encourage more consultation with local residents before those lights have been taken away, because as we all know, Chair, once something is taken away, it's really, really hard to get it back again. In relation to the 20-mile-an-hour part-time speed limits outside schools, I welcome that and did welcome both phase 1 and the announcement of phase 2. But I would like to refer to one of the schools within my own DEA, which qualified for the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. Obviously, the department recognised outside St Paul's School on the Moss Road that there is an issue with traffic, there is an issue with parking, to apply the part-time 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, which I would point out only works when followed by drivers, and you're relying on drivers' good faith to follow that restriction. But have the talks or the discussions around a parking scheme outside St Paul's School on the Moss Road advanced at any stage. I know there was land issues, but there are major concerns outside that school for children's safety because of the way people are parking outside it, and I would appreciate an update on that, Chair. Like others, there's a lot more that I could go into in relation to salt boxes and gullies potentially not being emptied at the right time. I've just before this meeting lodged another call around one in Carn Hill at the back of St Patrick's School, which is becoming a bit of a nuisance. But for that, I'll fill in the form which was emailed to us in advance, and thank again yourself, Chair, for allowing me to raise those very important issues, and Harry, Declan and Robert for the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. I'll hand back to Harry now. Maybe he'll delegate to you who will tackle which councillors' comments or queries, but over to yourself there now, Harry.
Thanks. I'll try to go through them, and maybe Declan and Robert can chip in if I can't work my way through. Actually, I thought Councillor Logue made a very positive contribution to the meeting by highlighting those NISRA figures. They're going to be very interesting ones, and I certainly am going to go away and look at it. It certainly wasn't something that I'm familiar with, and if we can use that to help make the case for more investment in this area, then we definitely will do that. And we share the frustration over the contractual difficulties with the resurfacing contracts. But these things are of a legal nature, and we have to respect the right of people to object to the processes, even if we are, frustrated by the delay that it means to the work that we're going to do. Councillor Rogue also mentioned the issue on Foyle Road, and I think that's something that we will have to have a look at. It's beyond what we in the local section can deal with, in roads, but I think it's something that we need to look wider, and we will engage with our colleagues in NI Water and Rivers and see if there is something that can be done to investigate what the problem is and what the solution could be. Because as you said, it's been there for a long time, and Robert explained to me that he's well aware of that because he was familiar with that area. The residents parking, and this has come up a couple of times, obviously the scheme that we brought to the public a few years ago was not wanted by them, and I think we in the department have to accept that that was the case. I would think that our next step would be I would like to engage with the elected representatives for the area, and maybe we could meet virtually, perhaps, and discuss about what the options are that we could start to take forward. Because, as I say, I'm very conscious that what we brought forward, and we all put a lot of effort into it, and I know yourselves on the council put a lot of effort in it, and I know Declan and his team did a lot of work as well, and it obviously just wasn't what people wanted, and we need to think again. And my own thinking is we need to keep it more straightforward. Maybe we as engineers overcomplicate things, but I say if we could engage with you, that's something I'd be very keen to do, to see how we do that. Councillor Edwards mentioned the A5, and of course we're all very keen to see progress on the A5, and undoubtedly there's no getting away from it. The A5 as a modern standard road will be safer than the existing road is. As regards the cladding and the HGV, the signs should go up soon. We're saying about the middle of the month. We're working on it actively at the minute, and it's just a case of getting those signs placed up. I would hope that most people, most HGV drivers would respect those signs, and it would be the exception that won't. Any enforcement will be down to the police, but I really would be hopeful that most people would respect that. People do respect signs there. Most people do anyway. And it's good to see progress on Bells Park Road, and we're keen to see that. Councillor Ainsworth also mentioned the Curly Hill Road and whether it was going to be a crash barrier, and I think it's going to be something that could be crash barrier. It might have been some form of vehicle restraint, but certainly that is the thinking, to have some type of vehicle restraint up along there. And I haven't quite worked out what the best way to do it is, whether it's the metal crash barriers you see, or perhaps a wall, or some way of deflecting vehicles. That's what I'm thinking. Traffic calming, we do seem to be making a bit more progress with, and I say the one in Spamount should be, the information leaflets should be well circulated around the residents, and if you would want to see details of that, I suspect Declan could forward that to you later on. I haven't seen the specifics of the feedback on the speed detection devices, and if that information is available, I'd be interested in seeing it, just to get a better understanding of what it is. Councillor Taylor mentioned those NISRA figures, so yeah, very interesting and definitely worth a good look, and certainly that's something I'm going to do. Active travel, you will see, is going to be a big part of our work. I'm with him. I drive up and down between this part of the world and Belfast quite frequently, and I welcome the A6 improvements. I remember driving through Castle Dawson. That's how long I've been going up and down the road. Buncrana Road, the information I have is to say that it's just that there are issues concerned, and at this time of year, I can't see there being a publication of a report that would be useful in the few weeks that are left of the year. So it will be, I would hope, in the first half of the new year that we can get something out there. The list of the delayed resurfacing work, that should be in the council report. I think there is a full record of all the schemes that were planned to be done, and then there's a list of them. The Lenamore one, I take the point. I saw the picture in the paper. What we're doing is we're progressing through our traffic calming schemes. You'll understand we want to do them on the highest priority first, and that's the way we're working through them. But the good news about that is the more we go through, it opens up the next set of priorities. But I think Declan will be looking at that Lenamore area to see if there is anything more urgently required there. And as I say, I appreciate Councillor Tierney's comments about the residents parking, and it is something I would like to see. The LED lights removal from and the removal of lighting from back alleyways is always a difficult issue, and it's one that has been discussed for many years now. But that is the policy. If we're providing a street lighting renewal, we do not provide lighting to rear alleyways unless they go somewhere, unless they provide a linkage between one place and another. And that is the policy, and it has been for quite a number of years. And a lot of people have questioned it and challenged it, and I have never been aware of any instance when it has been changed. St Paul's out there at Gallia, and the parking issues outside it. Well, very often we would say it's not strictly the department's responsibility to resolve parking problems at schools, but we definitely will work with anybody, whether it's the Department of Education, or others to see if we can work along there. I have in my mind that perhaps there's some work we can do with the active travel team, perhaps by improving some of the paths there for walking and cycling. And perhaps if we're in the area doing that, there would be an opportunity to work with others on something to resolve the parking issues there. So it is something that's in my mind, and I don't think just because we're doing the part-time 20s that that's the issue resolved. Thank you.
So that Harry, does Declan or
Rory, I think Harry has covered. I was looking over it. I think he's covered everything basically.
Yeah.
And the commitments that he's given, I'll be following up on them as well. So thank you.
Okay, folks, our next, we'll take another 3 councillors now. We'll have Councillor Ferguson, Alderman Hussey, Alderman Kerrigan. So Rachel, on you go.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Harry, Declan and Robert for coming today. And I must say, thank you all for the help that you do give. I know I get in contact quite a bit, and you've always been very good to come out and meet with any issues. So first of all, can I say I welcome the report and its aspirations, and I really do welcome the active travel, especially the phase 2, phase 3 of the Strafoil, and getting us out to the Broad Bridge area. I know I was down with Declan looking at it, and it does say completed on your report, and I know it's not completed the crossing itself. There's still a few niggles and issues and snags lists that need to be done, but there's one issue in particular I've raised with yourselves around the 2 lanes going down to 1, and there's a continual white line on the road, but people are still assuming that it's 2 lanes. And I'd raised with yourselves that there was 2 crashes, which has wiped out the lights twice in a matter of 2 weeks. But I've since heard that there's been about 4 crashes where people have made contact with a curb and blew their tire, but didn't necessarily damage the lights. So I think if before that is marked off and signed off complete, maybe we could think about boxing that off with the contractor still on site. That would be great. But honestly, it's a great crossing. And I think more crossings like it, a traffic calming would be great. I think having that on a little bit of a more rural road would open it up to other areas like Victoria Road. The second one I have, and I know Declan, you kind of skimmed over the A2 Cluny Road. The option study on management, I know it has to be considered with the phase 2 A6. But whenever the minister had questions regarding this, it was proposed that it's going to take £200 million for 7 kilometres of road, basically in the phase 2, and that's because of a redesign due to Maboy. So my worry is that even the likes of the Dungiven to Drumahoe was 25 kilometres for 250 million. That was a lot bigger scheme for a lot more money. So my worry is that it would be hard to feasibly get that funding for a short bit of road. So I would be keen to see that options study come alongside and not be needing the funding from the A6. So if you could just kind of tell me a wee bit more about that option study, because that road is, it's dangerous. We've had so many deaths, we've had so many crashes. And then last, as I say, I will follow you up with a few other issues, but Clady, I think it's brilliant. I think the over 7.5 ton weight ban is going to be amazing for the village. But I know that we were lobbying for Eglinton at the same time, and we were told that it was contingent on the outcome of Clady. So I'm wondering now, do we have to restart getting in touch with yourselves for Eglinton, or is that something that's already on the cards for Eglinton that they could possibly get the HGV weight restriction on that road? So a wee bit more information would be great about that. The contractual issues and resources is disappointing, but is it across the board or is it just our council district? Because I know I see that a lot of the markings out on the roads and all the roads around at the moment ready to go and get filled in. So I know you are really working hard at the moment, but it is disappointing to hear about the contractual issues. So no, I really appreciate you coming tonight, and I appreciate you answering the questions and all the work and the engagements you have with us. So just just those three, and I'll stop there, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Harry, Declan, and Robert. I'm sure you have plenty to be doing tonight, and I'm sure that, like all councillors in the chamber, we're well aware of the work that your men are out at this moment in time doing on the roads with regard to flooding, etc. There's a lot of work going on, and we thank you for that. Thank you for the report. If we can go swiftly through the report, starting on page 12, the town centre footbridge. Welcome to see that. I'd much rather see the diggers on the ground and getting on with the work. That's been a desire of the Strabane folk for a long time. I would have a concern at where the footbridge is actually located at the moment. I've always felt that the footbridge should be going straight in to the bus station there. But time will evolve and figure out how that's going to work out. Drumlega Crossroads on page 15, you'll not be surprised, particularly Declan, that I'm glad to see that there. But again, I'm aware that the acquisition is ongoing with regard to the land, and really look forward to that safety improvement at that particular point. I think it was Councillor Edwards who referred to the HDB issue in Clady as being a long term. This is a long term item that's been there, and I'm glad to see it. On page 17, and this is one for yourself, Chair, there's a picture on that page of a bus shelter. I'd like to refer to that after the officials, the road service officials have finished and been dealt with, because it's really an officer question. On the Newton Stewart bridges, 19 and 20, the two bridges, Pobble and the other bridge on the bypass, missing expansion joints. Is that something that wasn't there at the beginning, or is that something that's just wear and tear and these joints have fallen out? On the Killimore Bridge on page 21, there's obviously a time scale that's going to be involved there. I imagine a road closure to actually deal with the issues that have been highlighted there. So can we have some indication of perhaps how long there may be a necessary road closure there, if at all, if it is necessary on that bridge? Moving on to page 22, the street lighting. I note that the diamond is in there for street lighting upgrading. And could I suggest that DFI would liaise with our own council officers? Because with regard to the diamond, I would see that as an opportunity for more than just the standard light poles or light standards to be placed in the diamond area in the centre of Castleberg. We have the levelling up fund funding which is coming, and there are planned works in the diamond area by council through that fund. So I would trust that maybe that's something that could be considered, that we would have something more ornamental in the town centre there in conjunction with what council are doing. But as I say, I would ask that you would liaise with council officials who are taking that forward. And while that scheme is ongoing, I presume that if there were minor relocations of where the poles are, that can be considered. But again, I'll deal with that on with yourselves directly. I think it was Councillor Turney who did mention the fact of when schemes have been done, whether it's LED upgrading or new schemes going in, the removal of lights in back alleyways, etc. It does cause a lot of concern, and I would fully agree with what Councillor Turney was saying there. It's something that has to be considered. Certainly, the LED lights give a greater spread, but for security reasons, it may not be on adopted roadways, etc. But on these back lanes, when lighting is removed, it does cause serious concerns for residents. Reference the delays again, and I would congratulate Councillor Logue on the statistics that she has brought. They are extremely worrying statistics, and it has to be addressed. I would agree with Councillor Logue that a letter should go to the Minister. I know Councillor Logue's not on the committee, but I have no difficulty in proposing that letter would go from council if there's a seconder for that later on. The delays that exist, we have the funding in place, but because of the delays, that funding has not been able to be utilised. Will that have a knock-on effect for funding for the 2023 financial year? Will it be a case that we lose out on some schemes because of the delayed or the inability to use the funding on this particular occasion? Reference page 39 is the 20 mph speed limits at schools, and I welcome those. The first stage is complete, as you say. Second stage, near enough ready to move. But I will have to express my disappointment that schools that I would regard as of an equal importance and equal danger situation in the Derg area along the road through to the Lakelands, namely Kiln, Castlederg and Victoria Bridge, have not got into that scheme yet. I've seen the criteria that's used, and for the love of me, I cannot understand how they were not within at least the second stage of those going forward. I understand that there will be further stages, but I would trust that we will see a bit of common sense going into the assessment of those. Footbridge is mentioned on page 41 as another 25,000, whereas previously on page, I think it was 19, there's 30,000. Is that an additional 25,000 onto the 30,000 that was already allocated to be spent on that scheme with the bridge? And finally, Chair, the planned lightings on page 42, I noticed that Ardstraw, Ergana, Spalman, Castlederg, Newton Stewart have been clustered, and that there are selected sites within those areas. And I'm thinking in particular of the Ergana Spalman scenario. Road Service will be well aware that between the boundary of Castlederg and the Spalman area, there's a footpath, a very popular walking area. Is there an opportunity that a lighting scheme could link up those two areas along that road? On another issue at some stage, I firmly believe that there needs to be an extension or a linking up of the speed limit between those areas. It's very short space, and there's no reason why you come out of a 40 into a 60 and immediately back into I think it's a 30 then at Spalman again. That shouldn't be. And it does cause problems because people take the opportunity of trying to pass along that particular stretch of road, resulting in safety issues. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Derek. Our final speaker in this group is Alderman Kerry.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me in, and thanks to Harry, to Declan and to Robert for coming and giving your time and for the report. To be fair, there's a good number of things have been touched on, so I'll be as brief as I can here. Welcome the work being done at Prospect Bar, Bells Park Road and Orchard Road Junction and there, and those wee ramps on it there have improved it now. You definitely know you're going over them, so definitely that's a wee improvement, but it'll be good whenever we do get that issue properly sorted out. And again, the Mega Crossroads, welcome there that the work that's ongoing there. As I say, I've one individual on to me there about a court case in regards to an accident at it there. So as I say, I'm glad that work has been done on that. Just touching on it, and maybe it's just a question in regards to maybe a wee bit of joint up thinking, and maybe it's something totally outside the remit there. But in regards to Footbridge, and to be fair, Declan, I'll leave you with your pronunciation of it, for I wouldn't have been sure on that. I didn't hear that other name said before. Is it Crossed Balnree or whatever it is? I hadn't heard that name used for the other bridge there and Newton Stewart. But in regards to those bridges there had been discussions possibly about trying to get a greenway or a walkway around Newton Stewart. And the issues were in relation to the bridges because it wasn't safe was the issue. And I'm just wondering, would there been any scope to have tried to work or see, because I'm assuming these two or how quick these two jobs are going to take place on the Pobble Bridge and the other bridge. You know, how quick is that to happen? Because is there any way that even like a pedestrian footbridge or something small could be added to the side of it? Or maybe I'm just going into what could cost massive monies. You know, it's just, as a thought, is there any way of doing that? Because that would seem to be an issue we were having, that a potential greenway of going round that area and up round the wee it's not a monument, the wee statue or whatever that's at the top of Newton Stewart when you're coming in from the Staban roadside, and the two bridges seem to be an issue of trying to get a proper greenway around Newton Stewart. I'm just wondering, is there any way that can potentially be looked at by other departments that may well put some funding into it? Or I could be totally off, but just touching that one again. Welcome work on Killymore Bridge. Touch on street lighting. Street lighting is an issue, and it's a very much a hit and miss issue. And to be fair to DFI, I'll hand it to you. DFI are better at the street lighting than council, because I know there's a number of lights that, and my other Dare councillors know, there's a number of lights that are out in council car parks in Castledare, which are out for quite some time and have not been repaired. So, and I'd say I'm not, but in regards to DFI, the thing that I'm not content, maybe it's not your remit, but you can pass it on, not content with the reporting it online. You know, the times there you'll report a street light out online, and I take a bash at them. And as I say, one of the things I did at the start, you know, way back in August, September 19, whenever I was first on, I went through my full DEA and I got 190 street lights out. Now, yes, they weren't all DFIs, but over 170 of them were. And the sad reality of it is they're not all repaired yet. That's from September 19. But the issue is with it is you report them online, and that's it. You go back and you look at it then. If it's not an area that you're in all the time, if you go back and look at it then a fortnight later or whatever, the light's down is fixed. But yet, you know, maybe you're going back on that road later, that light's still out. You know, I've had issues there with lights there and reported them 3 occasions, and they were never repaired. And as I say, I have issues there with lights there whereby there were issue with day burning lights. But I mean, they've been reported now since September. And again, just to that report I got back was they might be fixed before March, they might not be. You know, so there are these ongoing issues there, but that's an issue there in regards to the reporting mechanism on the DFI site that I'm not happy about, because once you report them, and you know, there seem to be being knocked off at someone. I don't know if when someone looks at them, are they knocked off? But you know, they're not repaired. They're not repaired. And then you're back on that road then maybe a couple of weeks later, and them lights are still out. So there's an issue there in that reporting those lights there that I'm not content with. In regards to the resurfacing, yes, that's an issue, and I know there's so many wee areas there in regards to that, and work that can't take place, that is scheduled to take place because we don't have the contractor in place. Just touching on it there, I take it the surface dressing, is that carried out by DFI's own staff rather than a third-party contractor? Is that why the majority of the surface dressing has taken place, whereby resurfacing has not? I'm just asking that one. Again, my other list there, same comments as Alderman Hussey there. The 20 mile an hour at the schools, you know, we have 3 and Ozad County Main Road heading for Enniskillen there, St Eugene's and Victoria Bridge, and then Castlereagh High School, Kiln Primary School, in regards to the 20 mile an hour speed limits. I will touch upon, the touch then, the speed indicator devices. The one was mentioned there, that was on the Staban Road, Newton Stewart, and again, it has been on, people have been on to me before I've been on council and for quite a long time about getting a proper road crossing in Newton Stewart there. You know where I'm at there, coming towards the Spire Shop in the Staban Road, and sort of hitting our head that we can't get anything. And potentially, whether that'll help or not, but if you could get that information from the speed indicator device, that may well help, because this is an issue that I'm getting from residents, particularly in our park, you know, the speed of the cars that are coming across. So that's it. And again, concur with Alderman Hussey in regards to the comments there. He's mentioned street lighting there, for that extending the street lighting section there, Castledare on the Staban Road into Ergana. And again, yeah, I always had the issue there in regards to that you're out of a 40, you're into a 60, and you're still back into a 40, and you haven't travelled a mile. You know, so that's an issue. But the last one that I will touch on here, and I don't just see it in the report, but I'm going to touch on it, is grit piles and salt boxes. because I do note from last year when we discussed it, there, I think it was Robert might have stated that there was over 100 requests in for areas to be evaluated if they're eligible for a salt box or not. And we were told that there was a big backlog in that. And again, this, I know at the minute you're not needing a salt box, you're needing an umbrella and a big coat out there, but or a big coat maybe just and the wellies. But it'll be no time till we're getting inundated there with requests about grit piles and about salt boxes and this, that, and the other. And I'm just wondering, how have you got on with the backlog that was there from last year? I do note and I do welcome that this year I have had somebody up the road there just last week putting grit out on my own road, and I've had a number of other residents there that raised the issues, because I know particularly in the Derg area, and the other Derg councillors are backing me up on this, that we had major issues whereby I think it was a contractor you should brought in to place out piles of grit, and we were getting it in our ear, left, right, and centre, that it was not done. It just was not done, and there was no even pile of grit left at the bridge there in Castlederg for people to come and get it to do their own roads. So I'm just wondering, how has that happened? Because it's the time of the year where we will be getting that in the next couple of weeks if this weather changes to cooler. So that's the height of the things. Thank you very much, Chair, for allowing me in.
Okay, Keith, thanks for that. Back to you, Harry. Quite a lot of questions and queries there for you to answer.
No, thanks. And again, once I'll ask Declan and Robert to chip in whenever I can't give the answers. Just starting with Councillor Ferguson first, and as I think Declan knows more about the phases and the issues about the 2 lanes into one there at the new crossing there. So that is something that is being looked at the minute. Councillor Ferguson also mentioned the A2 Clooney Road, and yeah, we've always wondered whether we should proceed with the junction strategy along that section of the dual carriageway whilst waiting for the extension from Drumahoe down in the new junction up there. What the strategy involves is closing off some of those crossing movements. There's a sequence of crossing movements along the dual carriageway, and it would mean closing a number of them. I suspect it would probably not be that well received by people, but I also believe it would be safer as well. That's what the strategy is. And then the next item was mentioned about Clary, and we know how hard we've all worked, and you've lobbied for getting the weight restriction for Clary. One of the important aspects that made the case for Clary getting the weight restriction is a lot of the houses on the street through Clary don't have any parking to the rear of their property. They have to park outside their house, alternative for them. And that became one of the arguments we could use to justify having a weight restriction through the village. I think the road is only about 5 metres wide, and if somebody's parked outside their house, there just isn't the width. So I don't know if those circumstances exist to the same extent in Eglinton, but there's no reason why we can't at least try and do that. And if I know it has been asked for before, but if you want to ask for it again, by all means we can do that. But I know the particular circumstances of Clary were reasonably unique, and I don't know how widely I don't think it's opening that type of restriction right across the board. The contractual issues in terms of the regional contract, it is something right across Northern Ireland that's unique for this council area. It's something that's been experienced much more widely than that. Alderman Hussey was quite a lot of comments there, and I was thinking back, because I remember on Strabane Council back in the day, and yes, and it's Footbridge. So yes, we're both familiar with that one, and Crossroads as well. There's a few favourites we have there. The two bridges at Newton Stewart. I'm not even going to attempt to say the other one, because I'll only get it wrong. Declan can say it properly for me later on. Pobble. I know how to say Pobble. They're actually made of weathering steel, which is steel that looks as if it's rusting, but it doesn't actually. The rust doesn't fall off it. So the joints are actually very important, and the joints are just the bit on the road. You can imagine with a metal bridge, they tend to expand, and then this is where the expansion and contraction can take place, where the road goes in. So it's that's where the joints are going to be replaced along there. Killimore Bridge, I always think of it as almost like a mini Abercorn Bridge in Newton Stewart there. So I imagine the work will be of a similar, although perhaps less intrusive work, and I expect a road closure will be required for part of that. But nobody has approached us about what duration would be. A good point made about perhaps working with the council to see if we can think of something perhaps a bit better than the standard street lighting replacement for the Diamond in Castle Derg. So I'll pass that one on to the street lighting team and ask them to investigate that. And I know one of the most unpopular things I ever do is the removal of the lighting in back alleyways, and I well understand the concerns. It's been so many. Of all the things I do, it's probably the most contentious, and I wish I didn't have to do it, but it is what our policy is, and when we are doing street lighting renewals, that's what we do. But I will understand the concerns on that. As regards schemes losing out on the resurfacing, well, if a scheme's worthwhile doing, still be they can spend their allocation as usefully and as wisely within the district to make sure that there isn't a loss to the to their welfare. What I guess is in the kind of traffic volumes. So you tend to see roads that have high traffic volumes getting these part-time 20. They say something like the cult of the port, like on leading to the Northland Road. So that tends to be where I get. But once we got those really high busy roads out there, I'm sure this. Okay. We'll ask the street team if they also will route.
Sorry to interrupt there, but I think we're having
limits
bother
out there
hearing you there. You seem to be breaking up.
Make sure.
Sometimes if you turn off your camera.
Consistent with what our policy tells us. There is a way to get people across those bridges, and if we're building those bridges now, I'm sure we could build them either where they could have accommodated a green. I'll try to one down I've been before you before you realised. So fingers crossed you can hear me now.
Yeah, it seems to be better, Harry. Thanks.
Yeah. I've probably covered half a dozen points there, and nobody's heard a single word I've said apart from me in my wee room here. So apologies for that. The joys of this way of working. So I was just saying about the Greenway at Newton Stewart bypass, and I don't think it'll fit onto the bridge. And the work really at the minute is very much of a structural nature for the repair of the bridges. But I do think there is scope for somewhere that perhaps jointly with the council that we could work at exploring other ways to get a route around Greenway, a Greenway around Newton Stewart. But it's a big river to cross, metaphorically and reality. The part-time 20s, yes, we're still going across those, and a pedestrian crossing at the Spar shop, I think it was in Newton Stewart.
Yeah.
Perhaps Declan can comment on that. And there was also an issue about grit piles and salt boxes, and Robert might be able to comment on that just as we get to the end here.
Okay, Chairman. Harry, you're finished then, Harry, for now. Going back, Councillor Ferguson, our design team is aware of the collisions that unfortunately occurred out on the Maydown Road, and they are looking at the approach coming up to the crossing point. And as you say, for some unknown reason, on a few occasions, some motorists have gone behind the solid white line. That arrangement has been done actually from early summer, but it may be for some reason now with less light that it's just catching some people out. But they are certainly going to look at that, and if there's something more they can do to enhance the layout to the motorist, then the lane layout, then that will be done. There was the Spalmount to Ergana, Councillor Hussey and Councillor Kerrigan both have highlighted this, and I do understand the point that you're making there, that you're driving along the Fifen Road at 60 mph, and then as you approach the turnoff for Ergana, you go down into 40, and then if you turn left for Spalmount, I think you're back into 60, and then as you approach Spalmount, you're going into a 30. The problem with that stretch from the Fifen Road down into Spalmount is that it's basically a rural setting. There's no urban features. It's completely rural, and then therefore we're all reminded that the speed limit should really make sense to the motorist. So even though fully understand what you're saying, we will look at it again, but I know, and we would liaise with the police on these matters as well, their traffic section, because it has to work.
Declan, just to be fair, I think Alderman Hussey and Kerrigan, they were referring to when you come out of Castleberg, you
Right.
come where the 40 ends, and then
Yes.
you're the 60, and then you come to Spalmount Crossroads.
Yeah, well, it would be a similar.
Right.
I think it's a similar type of. I mean, I'm familiar with the road. There may be more dwellings as you leave Castleberg town and you get into like suburban type. But the speed limit, as the traffic police will say, the roadside environment has to match the speed limit. But we will look at that again, that whole area on all approaches. And Strabane Road, Newtown Stewart, the crossing, say for people coming out of our parking places, getting over to get buses and different things and over to shops. We'll look at that. Basically, like any request for a control crossing assessment is done, and we will pick the busiest 2 hours, if that is the morning time or if it's when people are coming back from school, getting off buses and all, and we'll do a count on the pedestrian crossing, and then we basically work out if it passes a threshold of identifying that there could be a need for a control crossing, then we'll take the assessment further. But we have to stick to our own policy and guidelines on that. Chairman, that is all I want to contribute at this stage. Hopefully that's cleared up a few more points. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Declan. Robert, have you anything to add to that?
Thank you, Chair. Alderman Kerrigan asked about whether or not our surface dressing is carried out by our own staff or contractor staff, and the short answer is both. The surface dressing contract is not affected by the challenges that are currently being addressed with the resurfacing contracts at the minute. And he also asked about salt box assessments, what progress was being made. We did make significant progress through the summer in carrying out salt box assessments, and in all probability, if you've asked for a salt box to be located in a particular location, and if there isn't one there now, it's probably, or most likely to be, because it hasn't passed the assessment. And as regards to the provision of grit piles, we've over 9,000 group pies within the Derry and Strabane area, and the vast majority of those are out now. We're just coming to the end of that particular parcel of work. So the vast majority of them should be out before, or hopefully they'll be all finished before Christmas. Okay, thank you.
Thanks for that, Robert. Our next group of councillors is Councillor Jackson. Then we'll have Alderman Devaney and Councillor O'Neill. So go ahead, Chris.
Good Chair, and on behalf of Sinn Féin, I just want to welcome Harry, Declan, and Robert to the committee, and they formally second the proposal that was made that we write to the Minister, highlighting our concerns with the NSRA statistics. Chair, I want to first welcome the progress in the A6, and I think it was Councillor Tierney that alluded to it earlier. When anybody traveling that road you can tell the difference and you can see the progress that's been made. And I think the word that he used was that there's parts of the road that have now become a pleasure to drive on. And I'm thinking back to a time when a former Minister, Chris Hazard, presented to this very committee, and I made a commitment that the A6 would be delivered, and that's and at that time there had been delays in that process, and there was a lot of people that were shouting that it would never happen. We had a clear commitment from a minister at that time that it would, and I know whilst there's really frustrating delays to the A5 and the A2 Buncrana Road, and a lot of people are making similar claims. I'm hoping that the commitment that we're receiving from the current minister, that those will progress, will have the same results as we've had from the commitment that we had from Minister Hazard. So it is frustrating that we're continuing to see delays, but we're hopeful that the minister's making the right noises and making commitments that these need to be priorities. Chair, in relation to active travel, and I think it's been well rehearsed, and I think even within this committee, we have endorsed a lot of the active travel schemes. We've progressed some of the council active travel schemes, namely the waterside greenway, the linkages to the Strathfoyle and beyond, and the wider northwest greenway network have been massive. They've been huge ambitious projects, and we're delighted to see progress on them. But one of the important aspects of the Greenway is the linkages, and I particularly welcome the report around the pedestrian link on the Craigavon Bridge, because that will greatly improve the linkages between the Prahane Greenway and the Waterside Greenway, and will encourage more and more people they take on, or they take up active and more sustainable modes of transport and travel. But that's not without its challenges, and I realise that that it will be particularly difficult on that part of the Craigavon Bridge. But we welcome the commitment to do it. But just and I hope I didn't hear Declan wrong. But when we're talking about active travel and the importance of a more sustainable mode of transport, one of the issues that had been raised, and I think I'd raised it about 9 months ago, was around the pigeon roosting and I suppose the ongoing maintenance and cleaning of the lower deck of the Craigavon Bridge. That's a walking route. It's a cycling route by so many, and it's been raised with letters from this committee to the minister and to the department around the importance of installing anti-roosting measures in the first instance, and then getting the bridge cleaned up. to date, we haven't seen any delivery on that, and this is where I'm hoping I picked Declan up wrong. If the Declan say that that they expect the anti-roosting measures to be installed within 2 years, that doesn't seem it doesn't seem to sit well with the promotion of active travel. I know I've been contacted on a regular basis by people who would normally use that route, who are saying that they can't, they refuse, they can't use it now because on their health and safety grounds, and health and safety concerns. And if we're talking that 9 months later, we're in the middle of doing a feasibility study and it's going to take 2 years to deliver, that's unacceptable. And notwithstanding all our pressures that the department are facing, we would have hoped that something as straightforward as that would have been delivered and progressed at a much faster scale time frame. Just on relation to the surface dressing and the delays due to the contractor availability, I know as a council, we passed a motion very recently around our concerns, but we acknowledge the challenges that's facing the department around contractor availability and legal challenges. But I'm just speaking on the delays. I think whenever we raised a concern before around Lissamore Avenue, I was given the explanation that Lissamore Avenue wasn't on the scheme for this year because of that there was ongoing utility works by a utility provider, and it made sense for the work to commence in the next financial year once that utility work has stopped. And that work has been completed now, and I'm just asking Robert, is there any commitment that Lissamore Avenue would be part of next year's on this next year's list, or is that going to be further delayed because of the contractor availability? And finally, Chair, and I will include some of the local issues on the email that's been provided, but on the issue of street lighting, and I know it is a major concern when people have street lighting columns removed from behind their properties, and it's been well rehearsed, and the explanation has been given by DFI officials on many occasions around primary routes to people's homes. But I want to particularly mention the columns in Fountain Hill. And I know that these are columns that I would have raised regularly on the system, which for one reason or another might have been sorted, fixed for a few weeks, and then the columns failed again. It's now coming up to a year when we've seen the new columns being installed for the new LED lighting scheme, which I had hoped would have resolved a lot of the lighting issues that had been faced on the Fountain Hill area. It looked as if, and the residents feel as if that they've been abandoned. The columns have been installed. The pathway has been re-tarmacked, but the lights are off. And they've been off now for nearly a year. And these are lights that are outside people's homes. They're lights outside pensioners' homes, on stairwells, or where there's steps, and all our dangers. And now coming into the winter weather, people just feel that there's no way that they can get in and out from their home. That's concerning, and it's. I just wanted to. I know that there's probably many examples of that right across the council area, but I felt that there was a lot of hope and expectation when the new lighting columns were installed, and then there's been absolutely nothing for at least 6 months now. So I just wanted to raise that as an issue, and hopefully we'll see a resolution to that soon, and the lights will finally be turned on. But thank you, Chair. That's everything from me.
Thanks for that, Chris. Next speaker now is Alderman Devaney.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me in, and I welcome Harry, Declan and Robert to the meeting here, and look, welcome the presentation. And I have to say, Chair, a lot of good work carried out on that there, and that has to be valued, but there are some serious concerns. And look, I'll just start off, I've listed the stuff here. The A6, I think we all welcome the upgrade of the A6. Many of us who are calling for the A5 to be upgraded, we look across an envy, but I have to say it will be a state-of-the-art road when it is finished. The A5, I welcome the update on that once again, and I do believe, like other speakers and around the A5, we need some promise of some good news, and my worry and around the A5 will be the cost and the funding and around the A5. You know, we still hear a commitment that it'll be finished by 2028, and I've raised this before and around the costings, and I think we're all aware how the costings have risen since the A5 was first mooted, but we live in hope and around it. The one thing I want to ask, and I don't know who this question is for, and around, and look, we all understand the financial pressure you're under, and I always ask this question, is although we have financial pressure, are we in a good place with staffing, machinery and equipment to deliver what you can there? Because I hear of many queries and around machinery being poor, and you know, the equipment being old and would need renewing. And you know, I've heard that, you know, DFI, I was asking for some hedging to be cut and around the Strabane area. I was told now, I was told informally, I don't know whether it's fact, I stand to be corrected, that we don't even have a hedge cutter now within DFI. Maybe that could be clarified. And the winter gritting has been discussed about, and I do welcome, as the previous speaker talked about, the active travel, and I'm encouraged by, you know, listening to here and around walking and recycling, you know, for cyclists and stuff like that there, that the talk about that infrastructure is moving on, but I would be seriously concerned that it isn't moving on fast enough in some rural areas. And around the lighting scheme, well versed in that there, and around the issue of not lighting up back alleyways. And I know we talk to people, and I have fought for years before this policy came out to get lighting installed because of antisocial behaviour and all those issues and around that. But now I have that elderly community who live in these areas that are now coming complaining that they do not feel safe in their homes because they have been used with lighting in their backyard. And once you mention policy, they just can't understand how we even allowed a policy like that to go through. But we are where we're at. Another issue I just wanted to mention as well, a question as well. You know, I talked to many community representatives on the ground, across rural, across urban, and look, I always, you know, in years gone by, we would always had a DFI representative there at the interagency site meetings and visits and a walk round, should it be estates in the city or villages and rural areas. And I'm just wondering, when could we get back to that? Because I thought that was a very good method of keeping in touch with issues within areas like that there. And we all know the concerns and around roads. And as you know, those, I always thought those wee walkabouts were very, very, very valuable. The next one is, look, I do understand it has been said here that phase 1 is finished in regarding the 20-mile-an-hour speed reductions for the schools. And I'm just wondering, is that correct? Because I had somebody just, you know, towards the end of last week complaining about the one on Artie-Garvan not being finished. So I just want to, you know, is that factual or and around phase 1? And I do welcome phase 2. And look, in my opinion, I do believe that around all the schools, the speed reduction should be reduced to 20 miles per hour. And look, I do understand the phase 1. There were contractual issues at the very start, and you know, I was disappointed when the schools returned after the summer holidays that phase 1 hadn't been in place and finished and around that. The last one just I want to mention on is the weight restriction in Clary. No problem to get there, but I do raise the concern in and around Eglinton once again. There have been calls for weight restrictions in and around there as well, because a lot of lorries and vehicles use that as a shortcut to get all, to get to Limavady from the A5 across to get to Limavady. But maybe if the A6 piece from Drumahoe right across into Maydown was to go ahead, it might alleviate some of that problem. And can I just say thanks to Deglin in relation to the issue at Maydown on the road towards the port. You were very proactive when I rang you. You were very quick, and I know Councillor Ferguson has spoken that, and you were very quick to have an on-site meeting with the group and others down there. But I want to thank you for that swift meeting, and I do apologise, Deglin. Something else came up that day, and I wasn't able to attend. But Chair, that's my part over. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks for that, Morris. Just remind members too to try and keep their comments as brief as possible, because we're coming up to the 2-hour mark now, and we intend to take a break after we deal with this particular item and the road service report. So our next indicated speaker and the final one in this group is Councillor Neil. Go ahead, Maeve.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks Harry, Deglin and Robert, and for your time this evening, because it is always a lengthy contribution. So thank you, because I think we all find it really valuable. Your contributions and the opportunity to discuss these important issues. And I will try and be brief, because I think a lot has been covered. And I can share your frustrations in terms of the lack of in terms of the contractor issues, because a lot of our roads are in a very poor state, and I know you are doing all you can to try and remediate that issue. I think we are seeing overall some positive moves with regards to investment here in the Northwest, with Greenways and hopefully in the very near future with significant investment in rail. And I think would all like to see it happen a lot quicker. I think what you said around the Greenways was really positive to see that focus on Greenways, and you were saying about the joined upness of the Greenways with our public sports facilities and schools, and I think this is really essential, particularly with the 20s Plenty campaign. I think that whenever we're designing Greenways, we really need to be thinking of a joined up nature where we're really connecting everything through Greenways, particularly supporting young people and children to utilise the Greenways. And I know I've raised it before in chatting with you, but the greening of boundaries in Greenways I think is really important, particularly for children and young people, but nervous cyclers who so that there's hedging basically between the road and the Greenway, because not only does it provide a natural barrier, but it also has a positive contribution in terms of air pollution. And when we're thinking of kids cycling, they're getting the brunt of the fumes from the cars and the roads. And this would be a really good green barrier. And it was interesting there, Alderman Devaney was saying that DFI no longer have hedge cutters, because I think as we're transitioning to these bits of green infrastructure, I think it's really important to invest in these green jobs, like hedge cutters, like people who can actually maintain the green infrastructure that we really need to be invested in. And that's the same for glyphosate. I know the weed killer. I know we'll be discussing this later, but again, if we invest in the labour, the green jobs to deal with this in a non-chemical, health harming way, I think that will be positive, a positive move from DFI. And I would just like to echo Councillor Logan, Councillor Tierney around the parking issue, particularly in the Moor area, and it has been a long conversation, which we haven't really reached any solutions, and I think whatever in terms of trying to develop solutions on this, they really do need to be co-designed. And again, Alderman Devaney made a good point around the walkabout and that engagement with the local community, and I think real meaningful collaborative engagement with the local community and figuring out the the solutions to car parking and in the Mirror area, because it's it's in the Bogside, it's in the Fountain, it's in Abercorn Road. Like Abercorn Road is an absolute lock now for cars and for traffic jams. And again, I think this all needs to be thought about, not just as a road issue, but solutions need to be again developed with public transport in mind, with greenways in mind, with rail in mind. We need to really have joined up approaches, so we're not working only in silos. So that's, I think that's all I want to say. And any local concerns, I'll continue to raise them with you. But thanks again for your time.
So that, Councillor O'Neill, back to yourselves. All right.
I'll just switch my video off so you can hear me, hopefully. The comments on the A6 that was made by Councillor Jackson and Alderman Devaney, very welcome. I'll pass them on to the teams involved with those, because it's very often nobody ever thanks anybody. So I will make sure that both the team involved in the Dungiven to Drumahoe and the one that was involved with Castle Dawson to Doom, both are aware of that. But I think that does emphasise, when we can get. I find myself thinking very often these days, building things is the comparatively easy bit. We like building things. We're engineers. It's the process taken through there, and that is where we are with the A5. But I think, like a lot of these things, you do need to keep the faith, and it is a step-by-step process, and you do get there. And when you do get there, actually the construction is, I'm not saying it's easy, but whenever you can see things happening on the ground, it's a much more positive experience than when it feels like you're just making more and more cases for things. The greenways were mentioned, I think, in a number of cases there, and we are keen to work with the council on those, and we have worked with them, on the Northwest Greenway, they work out the out the Culmore Road there and in Strabane, so we are working together, and those linkages are so important that we all do have a vision of how all these routes can join together and make a coherent network that people can use. And that really is something that we want to work together, because active travel is so important. And say Alderman Devaney mentioned the rural areas. I'm always thinking this as part of the team. Yes, we will be working on these urban schemes, and you will see the urban schemes, but that doesn't mean to say that active travel doesn't work in rural areas, whether you're in Crana or Plumbridge or wherever. You are still entitled to have the footway that connects you to your shop, school, whatever, and that is going to be an important aspect of the whole active travel process. It's not something solely for the urban areas. The pigeon roosting on Craigavon Bridge obviously has been going on a long time, because when I was in Bridges, I was there and I thought I'd done something which at least alleviated part of the problem in the worst area, but obviously it's ongoing. I would hope, as Councillor Jackson said, that it isn't, it doesn't take 2 years to get this done, that things can happen. But the Craigavon Bridge, by its very nature, just lends itself to all those ledges that the pigeons like roosting on, and then we know the consequences of that. Fountain Hill was mentioned in the street lighting, and when street lightings are reported, really, in normal circumstances, they should be repaired within about 2 weeks. So I'm very concerned to hear that it's been over a year that something has been not fixed, and I will go back to the street lighting section and discuss this with them, and we'll have to come back to you on that to see just what is the issue there. Is there something more wrong with the network? Because it really shouldn't be a case it's over a year. If you report something on the system, in usual circumstances, within a couple of weeks, that should be fixed for you. The lighting of rear alleyways, everybody agrees that it's not. The joined up thinking is very important on all sorts of issues, as I was mentioned in terms of the greenways, but I think also in terms of the residents parking and Councillor O'Neill mentioned, you know, the need to have engagement with the community. And it is a good point that was made there, that it's not just a roads issue, and perhaps maybe that's where we have been wrong in the past, thinking it is solely a roads issue. And I would be keen that that we could engage further and talk about things perhaps in a wider sense, that we could look at things beyond that. There might be a couple of aspects that Declan or Robert want to join in that were raised as part of this. So I'll just invite them to comment on there. So I'll just see if one of them wants to add in on the issues about equipment and hedge cutting and that type of thing.
Harry, thank you. Councillor Devaney, yes, part-time 20s phase 1, Artie Darwin. My understanding, I think there's a solar panel to go in, and maybe some of the flashing orange lights, the wigwags. So I'm sorry if I've misled the members, but I suppose when I say phase 1 is complete, basically it's 99% complete. All this major civils works and things is done, and there would be some snags, and I think in that case it's the solar panel, but we certainly are very keen to chase those up, and they are being chased up. And the focus is really on getting phase 2 done. And Chairman, I think that's the only thing I wanted to come in on, so thank you.
Declan, just Robert, if you've anything more to add.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Councillor Jackson asked about Lissamore Avenue. I think at our last meeting I reported that due to the utility work that was ongoing at in that location, we had to wait to that finished before we could resurface Lissamore Avenue. What happens is that once utility work is finished, it enters into a 1-year maintenance period, and then after that maintenance period expires, and we can move in and resurface the area. Because of the delays with the other schemes due to the contractual issue, obviously those schemes that we would have been doing this financial year, they're most likely going to get pushed back into the next financial year, 2022-23. Whether or not we can do Lissamore Avenue in the next financial year is really going to be dependent on what our capital budget will be in the 2022-23 year. My hope would be is that there will be sufficient funding made available to do it, but I can't make a commitment at this stage. If it's not, then it's going to get pushed into the 23-24 financial year. Regarding hedge cutting, the vast majority of hedges belong to the landowners adjacent to the roads. That's their responsibility to maintain. We can't cut hedges during the nesting season, so we have to wait to winter in order to cut back hedges. And any of the hedges that we're responsible for, we have to rely now on external contractors to do it in the majority of cases, and that involves hard charging. So you obviously have to have a budget there to pay for it. We do have a relatively good budget this financial year, and we will be carrying out quite substantial trimming of hedges and trees for the ones that we're responsible for throughout the district, and that should be starting to hit the ground early in the new year. I think that's everything from me at the minute, Chair.
Thanks a lot, David. Or sorry, Robert. Our next councillors are Alderman Ramsey, Councillor Carr, and then Councillor Riley.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Harry, Declan, and Robert, for very once again detailed report. And I know you are obviously aware of any issues that I have with my DEA. The flooding issue in Cluny, thank you very much for your very good help in that. The drainage issue, the responsibility for the drainage, and thankfully, in partnership with the community association now, that will be dealt with on an annual basis. And also, Alderman McClintock has asked us to obviously welcoming the cycling route in Drumahoe, something which he was personally involved in, and had a number of discussions with during the Parks Department meetings. The only issue that I have, which is issue basically comes back again from March, and again it's to do with what is the burning issue. You know what has to be done. You have the list there. It's very clear what needs to be done. Can't underestimate the disappointment and the anger in the community for the delays and some of and most of the road issues that we have, which have been deteriorating for quite a number of years, never mind months. And it's always down to funding. And when we go back to March and the question was asked, and Robert gave as straight an answer as he could about funding. You know, the roads maintenance, for instance, there was a 50% funding deficit. And you know, there's no sign of that 50%. Never mind the next funding being rectified. We had major staffing issues. We're coming into once again the winter issues, and you know, are we going to be faced with the same staffing issues, the funding deficits, or are you getting from any word from Stormont, from the minister, that there is going to be sufficient funding? Because remember, this was taken to the top on behalf of the entire basically yourselves, the leadership, the management, and the employees, about the issues that you have with staffing and funding. And I know also that Alderman Devaney, my colleague, has covered all the other issues that we have, but the burning issue once again is, as I say, funding. And it would be good to know if all the lobbying that has been done by our MLAs from ourselves, if you do believe that you are going to actually have the sufficient staff and funding to do what you are employed to do and what you want to do. But your hands have been tied for so many years now. And once again, thank you very much for the report today.
Thanks, David. Councillor Kiar.
Thanks, Chair, for letting me in as I'm not a member of the committee. Can I start off by thanking Harry, Declan and Robert for the presentation. I go to residents parking, and I have to declare that I'm a resident in the area. The neighbours and myself, it impacts on us on a daily occurrence, getting parked anywhere near our homes. And I welcome Harry's suggestion that we do have some sort of a meeting to discuss this with elected members and yourselves. I would welcome that. I know somebody says about need to bring a community in. I have to be fair to Declan. He has done 2-3 consultations. We haven't got a solution. So I would welcome for initially a meeting with elected members for the area. The only other issue is it's in the same area, and I raise it at every meeting, Frederick Street. Now, last week I witnessed an ambulance having bothered to get down to go to our Abbey Medical Practice or William Street Residential Home, been up on that driveway. But he had serious difficulties getting around the bend in Frederick Street. As we all know, seconds can count in somebody's life. That ambulance was in an emergency. Now, if had it been a fire engine, he never would have got around. So, and as I say, I've raised this more meetings than enough, and I have never had any feedback. Maybe nothing can be done, but I would appreciate if some sort of feedback could come, in particular that area, because that street services a lot of people within the Colmkill Court, Abbey Park, Abbey Street area. Thanks, Chair.
For that, Sean. Councillor Martin Riley.
Thanks, Chair, for bringing me in. Like Councillor Carr, I'm not a member of the committee, so I appreciate the chance to raise points with officers here this afternoon. Thanks to Declan and to Harry and to Robert for the report. As usual, very comprehensive and very open and engaging conversation this afternoon. Quickly, Chair, I suppose 2 points from me. One, first of all, in relation to Sevenoaks, page 38 of the report. Glad to see that up back on the schedule. The last time the DFA roads were before us, it wasn't on. So to see it have progressed to the stage it's at now since the last report is very welcome, and we look forward to it being implemented in due course. And the second query, Chair, in relation to the report is the wider A6 and the impact for that for where it is meant to reach into the city. We know currently the improvements are that it comes in at Drumahoe, but the initial master plan was for it to arrive in and then bring traffic to the core roundabout. So we know that there is a planning application has been approved for housing at Ballyowen. Houses are being constructed there at the moment, which is good to see. And I suppose the query I have for DFA roads officials is, are they at the stage where they are able to do what they need to do to improve the access onto core roundabout for people who use that location on a regular basis, and obviously that as well at Grantcham, because there are two roundabouts in the northwest that has a huge amount of traffic that currently need attention regardless of the number of houses that are coming on stream in that location. So any update that DFA Roads can give in relation to their plans in conjunction with the developer for that site would be appreciated. Thank you, Chair.
For that, Martin. Members, there's no other indicated speaker, so I just, from my own point of view, I have a few quick comments. The other day, councillors have commented on a lot of the issues that were of interest to myself, so I won't rehash them other than to say that just to welcome the HGV, the ban on the HGVs going through Clary Village. It's good to see that finally come to fruition, and I welcome the fact the signs are hopefully going to be up now within the next month. Good to see as well the development around the junction of the Prospect Bar at the Glebe. Something's been in the pipeline for a long time, and so it's good to see that being addressed. Around the Dublin Bay Road, the traffic camming there, I had to say I thought it was a bit ironic to see that coming on now when the primary school there has been closed. But I suppose with the further development of span-mount playing pitches there, the need for the traffic calming measures is still very important there. So I welcome that. Around the Kilclean Road, the network development there, I know that it's been listed there as being delayed, but I have been in direct contact with the local office, and I know that they do hope to still progress that, hopefully, before springtime. So in particular, I want to welcome that, and the fact too that they have confirmed to me that they will realign the speed cushions there, because there's been some new developments over recent years there, so the speed cushions obviously need to be realigned there. So I welcome that. And just finally, I want to totally concur with Councillor Kerrigan around the street lighting. I raised this the last time you've done your autumn report, and I've raised it with through the local offices as well. It's really frustrating as a public representative to report lights that are out, on behalf of constituents, and for them not to be repaired. And I know the standard is 10 working days usually that to be fixed, but I've reported lights and they're out for months and they have never been fixed. Even during this meeting I was checking again on the online system, and I see, as Councillor Kerrigan has said there, there's lights that I reported online and now they're marked as no fault, and I can look out my window here and see that they haven't been fixed. In fact, there's one light there that's flickering away, and honest to God, I don't know how the house next to it puts up lit, because it must be like a disco, but it's never been repaired. And I'd say it's been reported several times, and Bismarck has been fixed, and it's never been fixed. But I know you aren't representatives from the street lighting department, so maybe we need to get a representative from Street Lighting in here. But anyway, that's my comments of no real questions. But back to yourself, Harry. And again, just thank you for the report.
Thank you. I'll try leaving the video on, but if it keep breaking up, let me know and I'll switch it off. Well, I can't deny my responsibility for street lighting as well, so I'm afraid I am responsible for that too. So I will speak to the street lighting people. Say it really shouldn't happen. See, when a fault gets reported, that gets issued to the contractor, and it doesn't come off the system until
Harry, you're breaking
we
up there again. You're breaking up.
We have a record that has been fixed. So I will have to go back to street lighting. Yeah, give me a minute. Well, you can hear me now. I'd switched off a couple of the other things run in the background. I thought that might have allowed the video to run as well. No, say I will go back to the street lighting people, because it really shouldn't happen that you're getting, when you report things and it still stays on the system. It shouldn't happen, and we need to get to the bottom of that. Just one of the things I should have mentioned earlier on, just to allow me just to finish up, and I really don't intend to keep you long. One of the things we're starting to do at the minute is, and this is new for us in roads, we're starting to do a bit of rewilding, planting as part of our road schemes as well. It was just whenever we were talking about joined up thinking and things like that. So out at Strathfoyle, I think we have planted a few trees. So it might be a bit of a new way of thinking for us in roads to do that. So there's an aspect to that we are starting to do with our schemes. And I suppose it's all just as how our thoughts all evolve, and where we can incorporate that into our schemes, we will safely do that. In terms of staffing and budgets, I was at a meeting today, and the minister was speaking about budgets. And it's not for me to make announcements on budget funding, but my understanding is that it's being agreed in the Assembly that there's plans for a 3-year budget. But of course, obviously, all the various different ministers have to make their representations or their justifications as to why they get it. And we all know the pressures on the health and social services over the time that we're living through. So it can't be easy, the conversations that have to be had about that. And I do believe, in terms of DFI road staff, that there will be further road staff. There's certainly been recruitment ongoing at the minute, and if anybody's out there, I certainly would recommend it as a good enough career now, if you can get into it. Councillor Carr mentioned Frederick Street, and obviously that's the parking that happens around there. Declan and I, we'll see what Declan comments on this, but I suspect there's no easy fix, but maybe we're going to have to do something that's going to be less welcome with people. Maybe something to just absolutely deter parking. So if that's really what's required, maybe that's what we're going to have to do. But apart from that, I think that's all I want to say at this minute, other than to thank you for allowing me to talk like this and keep you for as long as I have. And I'll let Robert and Declan make any further comments, but it's always a pleasure working with Derry City and Strabane Council. Thank you.
Councillor Carr, yeah, we're all familiar with Frederick Street, and unfortunately it really does get congested. At one time there was plans to put a double yellow round that bend on the same side as Derry Credit Union. Just looking at it on Street View, and we'll take a look at it on site again, but the double yellows may work and may not work, and maybe it'll be a case actually on the roundabout that we'll have to design out the capability of parking. But we will come back to that. I'll put that down as a priority to look at that again, because I fully appreciate what you're saying. When the emergency services get in there, they're kind of stuck. It's not even easy to reverse back if they ever had to do so. And Councillor Riley, I've noted your comments about planning on the H30 lands at Ballyowen, and my understanding that provision is made within the planning approval in terms of how they phase the development. So my opinion would be there that has all been basically being dealt with depending just on how far they take the development. Chair, that's all my comments for now.
You, Declan. Robert, have you anything to add there?
Thank you, Chair. Just to ask members that if they do have any issues that they wish to raise with us that haven't been raised in the meeting, is to complete the inquiry sheets that I think were circulated to everyone, and to email them into us, and we will investigate those issues and respond as soon as we possibly can. Other than that, just to thank all the members and council officials for their continued cooperation and help throughout the year. Thank you.
Chair, can I just add my appreciation for how the councillors liaise with different issues, and I do value their support as well, because they can understand it from our side as well. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks again, Declan, Robert, and to Harry. I'm going to bring in Karen Phillips, Director of Environment Regeneration here.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And Chair, just what I wanted to, on behalf of the officer team, thank Harry, Declan, and Robert for coming along today. You all know, members, that we will work with the team very, very closely, and I think sometimes I do think that I'm nearly an honorary DFI official at times, but we would meet with them numerous times every single week, and they always do their best to work with us as best they can, often in challenging circumstances. So thanks again to the team, and look forward to working with you in the year ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. And just to sum up, I suppose, as chair of the committee, I want to just echo your words there to thank the road service officials for the presentation today, and indeed I think I speak for all councillors regarding their cooperation throughout the year with constituency matters. And to remind councillors, just to, if you have any constituency matters, you should have received an email with the form, so get it sent in, and no doubt the DFI officials will respond to you in due course. So thanks again, Harry, Declan, and Robert.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, members, we'll take a very brief 10-minute comfort break because we need to get through the items for decision. And as I said at the start of the meeting, I intend when we come back to take the matters for decision and then go into confidential. We'll then come out of confidential, hopefully, and if any member wishes to raise any of the items for information, they can do so then. So we'll be back, folks, at 6:30, if my watch is correct.
Thank you, Chair.
See you then. Okay, members, we're back in action here now. It's just gone 6:30 there. Just following our last item, the road service report, just for the record, there was a proposal there from Councillor Logue, seconded by, was it Councillor Jackson, to write to the Minister, just expressing our concern at those NISRA statistics, and I'm sensing that there have been nobody in opposition to that. So I'm going to bring in Councillor Boyle. My apologies, Councillor Boyle. I didn't see you had indicated until after I had called the break the last time, but go ahead, Councillor Boyle.
Thank you, Chair. No problem with you missing that just before the break. I was actually looking to come in on that particular matter. In the first instance, Chair, I think we all understand Councillor Logue actually isn't a member of the committee and can't make a proposal. There may well be others that may well want to support that proposal, but prior to that, Chair, could I point out that it seems a little bit odd that this committee would write a letter to anyone without the members of the committee having had sight of said statistics. And whilst I don't doubt what Councillor Logue is saying, I would be reluctant to write a letter to any government minister, doesn't matter what department they would be, if I hadn't seen the statistics that I'm writing the letter about. And I would suggest, Chair, that if there were to be a letter written, that the members of this committee get sight of those particular statistics. It would make sense, in my view, to do it that way. And as I say, I'm not against the idea of writing to a minister, but I would like to see the stats as Councillor Logue presented them. If she wants to supply us all with a link that we can have a look at, and then we can perhaps come back to this letter again when we've all had the chance to see them. Thanks, Chair.
Chair, on a point of order.
Councillor Hussey, point of order.
Yeah, Chair. I am a member of the committee, and I had proposed that we would accept the suggestion from Councillor Logue.
My apologies.
And as to the issue of the stats, obviously nothing would be done until this goes to full council, and I'm sure the stats can be made available before full council for clarification. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, can I come? Chair, can I come?
Yes, Alderman. Yeah, I'll bring you in again, John. Quite right, Alderman Hussey. My apologies. It was yourself that agreed to actually propose the motion or proposal put forward by Councillor Logue and seconded by Councillor Jackson. Going to bring in Councillor Logue here first before yourself comes back in again, John, if you don't mind.
No problem.
Thank you, Chair. And no, I quite understand that members will want to look at those statistics for themselves. Sorry. In fact, that email came out yesterday from Triax, which John is a member of, and the link to the statistics that I quoted would be on that email. So I would presume, and maybe I'm being over presumptions, that John would have received that email too as well, like every other member of the Triax board. So, but I'd be happy to share them anyway with, I forward them on to Karen Henderson and ask her to share them out with all councillors, but I did receive that email yesterday. Thank you.
Thanks, Patricia. Councillor Boyle.
I received the same email. Thank you for that, Patricia. And I probably should have pointed that out. I wasn't speaking for myself. I was speaking for the other members of the committee who are not on the Triax board, and that's near enough everybody else on the call here. So I think it's only fair that information would be shared with the members of the committee here today before we would be making a decision as to whether the committee felt it appropriate to write to the minister or not. But what I was suggesting is what Alderman Hussey had actually framed it, and that when people have had the opportunity to look through those particular statistics, that then we could revisit this at full council. I don't see it as a major issue, but I think, we don't want to get cart in front of horse.
Yeah, take your point, Councillor Boyle. I don't really see an issue here. I mean, take Councillor Logue at face value, and I mean, you've confirmed yourself that that letter with the statistics included came, via Triac. So, I mean, between now and the full council, any member who wishes to double check those statistics can do so. I mean, are we content to proceed on the basis that it still would have to be ratified at full council anyway?
Chair, from our part of the DEP, we're happy to proceed as you stated there. But what I would like is maybe the stats forwarded to Karen, so they're shared out among everyone, that we would get them in. And look, they can be further then discussed then at the full council. But happy to proceed on the proposal.
Yeah, I'm sure Karen can confirm that all councillors can be furnished with the appropriate statistics. Karen?
Yeah, no, thank you, Chair. If Councillor Logue wants to send them on to me, then I can actually make sure they're circulated around to all the members. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Boyle, are you content with that?
Thank you, Chair. That's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, members.
Mute, Chair.
You hear me now?
Yeah, Chair, we can hear you.
Item 6, members, is Chair's business. Members, I don't have any other Chair's business other than the fact that issue that I raised within the DFI report. I do think that we should have somebody from DFI Street Lighting come on the council just to appraise us of some of the problems that we've been encountering with it and the systems that are obviously not up to standard. So I would like to propose that we do write to DFI Street Lighting and invite one of their members on the council.
I would second that, Chair Morris.
Thank you, Alderman Devaney. Members, are we content enough for that?
Right.
Not seeing any member objecting, so thanks for that, members. And there's no other indicated member who has brought any Chair's business to me, so we'll move on then to...
Chair, I had asked during the road service presentation to bring an item after we'd finished with road service to our officers.
Oh, that's right, Alderman, and it was in relation to, it was linked to the
Was,
yeah. Go ahead then, Alderman.
It's linked to it, but you'll probably say you're a cheeky person. On page 17, one of the schemes is a picture of a bus shelter. And I just wanted to bring to officers' attention a road safety issue that's arising in Ardstraw. Those who know Ardstraw will know that the bus shelter is on the other side of the bridge from the village. There's a road safety issue there to such an extent that children coming into Castlederrick from Ardstraw via board transport are picked up on the village side. The bus turning up around about the school area, the primary school area. Can I ask that officers of council would consider or look at the potential of a bus shelter on the village side in Ardstraw to accommodate those youngsters who currently have to stand, and we know what the weather's like, in atrocious weather, waiting on a bus to take them into school in Castlederrick. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, we're happy to look into that if you're happy with that, Chair.
Yeah, happy with that, and I presume members of the committee would be supportive of that as well. So, content enough with that, Alderman Hosry?
Absolutely, and your forbearance as well appreciated, Chair. Thank you.
Problem. Members, move to item 7 then, which is our matters arising from the previous meeting. I'll take them pages 45 to 56. And I have Councillor O'Neill, ER 321/21, ER 26/21, ER 331/21. Go ahead, Councillor O'Neill.
Thanks, Chair. The first one comes out of the Dalradian discussion, and it's on another similar drilling issue. And it's a really urgent, pressing issue, as the Minister for Economy is due to present policy options to the executive before it's likely to be tomorrow. To be honest, that might give the green light to fracking and all the other forms of petroleum extraction and Fermanagh and around Lough Neagh. So it's a very urgent issue that's coming to the executive, and I think a lot has been said by the executive parties to commit to climate action, but we have fracking on the table again. But the executive do have a chance to stop all forms of oil and gas exploration and extraction in the north. With this policy coming forward, which is exactly the type of measures that have been urged by scientific experts who authored the IPCC report and other reports. But I do have concerns, and urgent concerns, that instead of making the decisions that's going to align with the decarbonised climate action scientists globally are calling for, that instead the executive are determined to create loopholes to allow corporations to plunder for profit and lock us into a fossil fuel future. And that just weeks ago there was a late government report examining petroleum licensing, which rejected the economic argument in favour of drilling and dismissed any suggestion that our energy bills would be cut if we invested in oil and gas. And I am genuinely unsure of how the executive parties will vote on this. The SDLP, one of their ministers has a conflict of interest, but I'm not sure if any of the other ministers will vote. And with Sinn Féin, they have made a divergence in their fracking policy, north and south, allowing a loophole for fracking of sandstone rock. And with regards to the Department of Economy, the University of Exeter, there was a report in March this year that they did on the energy governance in the north and how we can transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy. But this report raised serious concerns regarding the governance in the Department for Economy and the heavy influence from industry that the department facilitates for.
I just want to stop you there. I mean, I don't think this is really relevant to the minute, so I'm going to ask you, if you have an action horizon, can you please?
Yeah, it's just a proposal, Chair, that we urgently write to the executive just with regards to this drilling issue. Basically, if this decision goes forward, we could be locked into, drilling and fossil fuel extraction in the north. It's the same as, it really is quite related to the Dalradian gold mining issue, where we continue the method of extraction, which is completely at odds with our action on climate. So I was going to explain just about how the Department of Economy, about that report, and in terms of the concerns raised in it, and how they're still championing gas, as per their policy, which is 25 years old. So I do have a proposal to write to the executive, but also to write a letter of no confidence in the Department of Economy following that Exeter report.
Councillor O'Neill, I'm not going to accept it, because essentially this is a pop-up motion, and I think you would be far better served by taking it to full council, because I mean, members, they wouldn't have even have had time to consider your proposal, which is essentially merits a motion to full council.
I suppose, Chair, sorry, with all due respect, it's just that this is potentially coming up tomorrow or next week, when storming. It's a very, very urgent pressing issue. And it's only really been coming to my attention, fully at the weekend from Lamp Fermanagh, the campaign group, really highlighting this issue.
Even at that, Councillor, I don't think there's enough time for officers to be able to do it by tomorrow morning anyway. So I'm going to rule that it should be taken next week at full council.
Chair, if you want me to come in there, members, just to remind you that the committee make recommendations to full council, so any decision or any recommendation made by the committee tonight can't be actioned until after full council in any case. So just to remind members of that.
Thanks for that, Karen. Councillor O'Neill, do you want to raise your other issue?
Yeah, the other ones are very brief, Chair, just on is there any update on the RAP peer review on that source separation report on ER 326/21?
Chair, happy to take that. I've been in contact with RAP and have had a number of discussions with them. They will pull a specification together and issue it to their external consultants to provide a cost estimate for the work that needs to be conducted. Once we have that, we'll bring that back to committee. Obviously, we need a budget, so once we have that information, we'll bring it back to committee for discussion and approval.
That's great, thanks. And then just the last one, ER 331/21. It was around rights of nature. So just so the webinar happened on the 3rd of December, and it was just there was a meeting kind of as suggested or as proposed, sorry, at the last A&R meeting with Friends of the Earth, the Gathering, and Queen's University School of Law, who are the local leaders in terms of rights of nature here. But the Friends of the Earth and the Gathering, they did feel that there still isn't authentic collaboration in terms of the design of the workshops, and it was just to kind of raise that with officers and just obviously there's going to be 2 workshops developed, so just if that if we can work on that, because like the officers did an excellent job in their research of the rights of nature and did really, really comprehensive work. But I think it's just it's a good practice to utilize local expertise in a concept which is quite new for so many people. And I just wanted to get clarity because it was a webinar, kind of a one-way stream webinar, and I just wanted to get clarity. Was that like one of the workshops? Because it was introduced as an information session, but then it was also introduced as the first workshop. And I thought that the contributions from Dr. Christine Doherty, our biodiversity officer, was absolutely excellent, and also from Peter Dorn from Queen's University School of Law. And there has been a 2-week window set on the responses to the questions. Just wondering, is there a reason that there's only been 2 weeks for this, and can this be extended until after the new year, given December is not a very productive month for many people? So that's my questions on that.
Thank you, Councillor O'Neill. I see we're the officer here now, just.
Yeah, Chair, happy to note those comments and we will consider them in the next couple of days. Thank you.
Councillor Tierney. You on mute, Brian? Nope. Yep.
Sorry, Chair, apologies there. ER 324/21. Members will recall at this meeting last month, there was, just before this meeting last month, there was a protest outside St. Colum's College by anti-vaxxers who were targeting young people as they were coming out of school. Chair, I am sorry to have to report to this meeting that the same thing happened again today within my DEA at a different school. And once again, anti-vaccination protesters were targeting young people as they left school. I've been contacted again by a number of parents who are quite rightly annoyed, and I would ask that this committee join once again with me and condemn this protest and send out a very, very clear message once again that school gates and school grounds should be free from protest, and that children should be allowed to make any decision about the vaccine in consultation with their parents. And that's the way I think that they should be allowed to go about making that very, very important decision. And I would encourage as many as I could of them to take up the vaccine. But I would just ask the committee to join with me and condemn once again this protest outside the school. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney, and as you raised it previously, I'm sure the committee's sentiments will be the same as the last time, so I don't envisage we need to have any further more input on it. So I'm going to move to the next speaker, who is Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair. And by the way, I just totally agree with Councillor Turney there. I think I described it before, and I would describe it again as basically child abuse. That sort of behaviour, totally unacceptable. Chair, the two issues, 318 is with regard to products containing glyphosate. And I know we have a report coming later in the meeting on this, but I note that the report is from the biodiversity officer. The concerns that that I was hearing was coming from those responsible for our streetscape, and I would like to be assured that there is input into this on the impact that it is having on the ability of those responsible for our streetscape to maintain clean, tidy streets throughout our district, particularly in our rural settlements. That's the first point, Chair. Do you want to wait on the second point, or do you want me to go on ahead to the second point?
I think probably
quickly, members, just to reassure you that we very much have a partnership approach across the Directorate in terms of these issues and trying to actually solve the issues that and challenges that we face. So absolutely all the teams have been involved in terms of problem solving around this particular issue. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. My second point to sorry, that's 323. Sorry about the number mix up there. It's Scarva Hearn. I think it was an issue that maybe was brought by yourself, Chair, at the last meeting. And the interaction with the Historical Society. Previously, members will recall that I had asked for engagement with local historical groups with regard to the Pauper's Grave site at the old hospital in Castledarg. And it's just really an update. Has there been any contact to date on this? I know we're heading into Christmas, but has there been any contact? And if not, can we be assured that there will be some sort of contact, at least early in the new year, with those who have expressed a desire for some sort of marker to let us know with regard to the Pauper's Grave site in the old hospital site? Thank you, Chair.
Chair, if I take that, members, our business and culture team have been doing quite a lot of work in terms of that particular site, and they have follow-up that's ongoing, and I will ask the relevant officer to update Alderman Hussey in relation to that. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman. Our next speaker now is Alderman Kerrigan.
And it was only just again on 323, just that we would keep that on the agenda, that just to get the wee report back at some stage in regards to Scarva Hearn and the Historical Society. So that's all it was, Chair, but that's already been touched on. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. And Councillor Edwards.
Chair, thanks for letting me in. It's just, I'll keep it quick. It's just about the proposal brought with thanks everyone's support for the last committee. But just to follow up on that, there's a committee that's been set up. They look at the need for a skate park in the wider Strabane and Derg area, Strabane District Skate Association. And they've approached me about presenting to this committee in the future. I imagine it'll be sometime in the new year, but I'd be grateful if council officers are able to reach out with them and get that organised. Thank you, Chair.
Through you, Chair, if members want to provide us with the details, then we can organise to get into contact with them and organise that at some stage in the future. Thank you.
Okay, members, moving on then, propose that we take item 8 and 9 together, and it's Frank who's taking these.
Sorry, I'm back online here again. So the first one is a naming proposal for two different developments. One based in.
Chair, so proposed for both items.
Seconded there, Chair.
Thank you, councillors. Short and sweet.
Chair, in regards to item 9, Chair, I have a wee query.
Go ahead, Alderman.
In regards to item 9, the information is not provided for one of the roads. You have listed 16 roads there in regards to dual signage, but yet you've only provided the information for 15 of the roads. So there's one of the roads that you're proposing to grant dual signage to, which does not have the information, the figures on it, and that would be the Eden Ray Road. Now, I've spoke to residents, and some of those residents have stated to me they didn't get documentation from council, so I'm just confirming it's the same Eden Ray Road, but with the exception of that, if you're content to pass it, but I wouldn't be just content with that one road because the information is not provided in the table. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, I'm happy that we would take that particular one next month if members allow us to look into that matter, if the committee is content with that.
Are members content with that course of action? Not seeing anybody opposed to it. So that'll be next month's Environment Committee meeting, Karen?
Yeah, Chair, we can bring that back to the next committee. Thank you.
Problem. Item 10 is pretty straightforward.
Sure.
It's a license agreement.
Chair, item 9, I'm in the chat box.
Sorry, Alderman Hussey, go ahead.
Thank you. It's really just a comment. I've been looking at those figures, and it really is disturbing the number of proposed sites or proposed roads where less than 50% of households have responded. There are 15 sites, as has been pointed out by Councillor Alderman Kerrigan, listed. 8 of those are 50 or less % response from the houses. And if you look at the overall total, 358 properties were surveyed. Only 179, exactly 50, only half of them have actually responded. And to my mind, I think there's something missing here. And I would suggest that we actually need to relook this particular policy and figure out, well, why are people not responding? It's very easy to presume, oh, we don't have an objection, but that may not be the case. There may be those who feel, oh, I don't want to rock the boat here. I'll just keep my head down and be all right. So I would have concerns about the current methodology that we utilize and would request maybe that officers could investigate how we could go about this process in a more accommodating fashion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman. Karen, do you want to address that?
Chair, happy to note the comments of members, and members, you will be aware of the previous notice of motion in relation to this particular matter, which officers are still trying to work through with our policy officers, and we will bring a report back to members as soon as we possibly can in relation to that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks. Item 10, straightforward enough, has been proposed in the chat box there by Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Boyd, John Boyd. Just to put on record, I suppose, thanks to the team for the 3 at Ergna and indeed at Spamount. I know it's been very, very much welcome within the 2 hamlets. Members, item 11 is Smart Grid Ireland, and it's Frank that's to take this.
Just having a bit of technology problems here. If you bear with me 1 second, getting the report up. Okay, so the purpose of this report is to seek approval for to renew council's membership of the Smart Grid Ireland Industry Collaborative Network. Refers back to previous reports there where approval was sought before. 2.2 sets out some information on the nature of Smart Grid Ireland and under key issues. It's confirmed that the network offers unique opportunities for Council's energy manager. The network offers unique opportunities. The Council Energy Manager has been approached by the Smart Grid Ireland Collective Network to apply for membership based on Council's track record on implementation of energy efficiency projects and ongoing involvement in smart projects such as Stardust and the development of the regional energy strategy. The core objectives of the collaborative work are, and those are set out there, to establish a consensus industry view of the network challenges that smart grids could help address, and therefore are likely features and functionality that would characterise a smart grid within the UK, Ireland and Europe context.
Sorry, Frank, that's been proposed and seconded on the chat box. Unless any member is opposed to it, I take it as being unanimous. So we'll move on then to item 12, is the Love Here project, and that's Connor to take this one.
Thanks, Chair. And this is to seek members' approval for funding the sum of £22,000 per annum over the year for the Love Here project. Council have funded this over the last number of years. The report sets out the background to it, how the funding is spent, including the rebate, if you want, back to Council for small local environmental grants that a number of groups right across the city and district have been able to avail of over the years. The recommendation is that we continue with the scheme. We have budget provision for this within the environmental budget, and it's £22,000 plus VAT per year over the next 3 years. And we're seeking members' approval to continue with it.
Chair, it looks like that's been proposed.
I think the chair might be on mute again. Chair, are you there with us?
That's the old mute button for you. It's been proposed and seconded there by Councillor Dobbins and Councillor Tierney. I'm not sensing any opposition to it, so that'll take us to our next item, which is item 13, Green Growth Strategy for NI Consultation Response, and that's yourself, Karen.
Yeah, and Chair, the purpose of the report is to seek members' approval for the content of our draft Green Growth Strategy response. Members, the background set out in the report and the draft response to the 15 questions contained within the consultation document is included. And members, we are asking you to approve the draft report. Members, we have to have the response back by the 21st of December. Thank you very much, Chair. Happy to take any comments members have.
Proposed, Chair, if it needs a proposer. Morris?
Yeah, it's been proposed there by Councillor Dobbins, seconded by Morris, and Councillor Neal, you're looking to come on there. Go ahead, Maeve.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks, Karen, to the officers for it's a very comprehensive response, and I think it makes really excellent points throughout it. So it does. But I just kind of, in terms of green growth, I don't, I'm not convinced of the strategy as a whole. And I can't help but be a bit suspicious of it in terms of it has positive words, but in terms of the realities of what's happening here in the north, of what could happen under the premise of green growth, like in terms of incentivizing industrial agriculture or locking us into a future of indigenous gas, painting gas green and blue, which really are the biggest fossil fuel scams in history. But I think just with one comment in terms of what we can add into it, it's in question 2. I think we need to maybe talk a wee bit, just 1 point more about the urgency of addressing together the dual challenges of inequality and environmental degradation. So adding to the principles, just another principle of an inclusive green transition, because I don't think the share responsibility principle really cuts it. But if if it can be included within it, I think whether we're talking about green growth or inclusive growth, I think we also need to challenge the current underlying economic models and values, and that is included within our response, which is really excellent, about moving beyond GDP and embracing new metrics of progress, like the Sustainable Development Goals or national wellbeing indicators. So because we need to look at what we mean by wealth creation and well-being and quality of life in a climate constrained world. So I think it's good that it's in that, but if that can be expanded on a wee bit more, it's in question. I think it's in question 1 or 2 as well. So that's my feedback. Thanks.
If members of the committee are happy that we add that in, then members, we certainly can add that before the response is made.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
And item 14 then is biodiversity strategy, and that's yourself again, Karen.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. And the purpose of the report is to seek members' approval for the contents of a response to DAERA's consultation on the biodiversity strategy to 2032. Members, the background set out in your report, and we've outlined a number of recommendations to assist with the development of the biodiversity strategy, and we're asking members to approve the draft response. You all know, members, that the response was due by the 3rd of December, but this is the first committee that we've had the opportunity to bring it to. So members, again, we would advise DAERA that we'll have it back to them as soon as possible, but happy to take any comments that members have.
Thank you, Karen. Councillor Dobbins.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm happy to propose that. Karen, there's 21 targets there, and they're pretty intense. So I don't doubt it, but I would like you to say it, that you are very confident that by that year of 2032 that those 21 targets will be fully met.
Through you, Chair, members, as you're aware, that this is DAERA's strategy for Northern Ireland, and certainly we would hope that Council can play our part in terms of ensuring that we meet the targets. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Karen. Councillor O'Neill, you're looking in there.
I'm not sure if it's been proposed or seconded, but I'm happy to do either. I think it's very comprehensive, a lot of work has gone into this, so again, well done. And it's good to see in question 2 that the rights of nature has been referenced. So I think that's very positive. Thanks.
Thank you, Maeve. It's been proposed there by Councillor Dobbins and seconded by yourself. Members, again, I'm sensing there's no opposition to it, so I'll take it as unanimous. Our next item then is item 15, which is the Clooney Master Plan. And again, Karen, you're taking this item.
Yeah, and members, this is to update members on the consultation findings with regard to lands at Clooney owned by the Department for Communities, and you will have had a presentation in terms of proposals for the lands in previous committees, and members had endorsed the Green Infrastructure Master Plan and allowed us to go to public consultation. We are presenting that public consultation here today, and members, whilst we see from the consultation responses that a few concerns have been raised, members would expect that in such a type of a project as this, and we would hope to work with residents in addressing these concerns through the detailed design process in advance of submitting a formal planning application. So members, you have already approved a budget of 28,000 to take forward detailed design in relation to this. And members, today we are seeking your approval to move to detailed design of the green infrastructure elements of the Clooney Master Plan. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Karen. A few indicated speakers here, and first is Let me see. Alderman Devaney, go ahead.
I had in the chat box, I didn't think Alderman Ramsey was on, but I'll pass on it and let Alderman Ramsey speak on it. Apologies for that, Chair.
No problem at all. Go ahead, Alderman Ramsey.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Morris. I did go offline there by accident. Yeah, first of all, to welcome this very detailed report, and thank you to everyone who's been involved. There's been a lot of hard work in the 5 stages to date, and you know it's clearly been a very worthwhile scheme, and we always said all along that it's very important that the local people are heavily involved in whatever the future holds. And yes, there are issues that have been brought forward, and it's very encouraging there's been so many people that have come forward and have given ideas and concerns that we can work on going forward. The 450 house survey definitely did help in getting more feedback. The whole infrastructure moving forward, it looks very, very encouraging, and this year is just the next step, and obviously want to propose that we move on to the next step and start progressing this further. And thank you once again for what is a very encouraging report. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Alderman. And our next speaker is Councillor Martin Riley.
Yeah, Chair, thanks for bringing me in. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not a member of the committee, so I can't formally second or propose this item, but I just wanted to speak to it. And like the previous councillor, Alderman Ramsey, just to thank officers for the work that they've done in relation to this issue and the consultation that they've had with the residents there, going beyond what was initially planned. I think that was very useful just to get as much impact in the area as possible. So certainly happy with where we're at with it, and to thank officers for the work they've done to gather in the information from as many people in that part of the waterside. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Martin. And our next speaker then on this item is Councillor Jackson.
Okay, thanks, Chair. And I'm happy to second Alderman Ramsey's proposal. This is the Clooney Greenway project has been a long-running project. There's been a lot of work that's been done to it by council officers, and I want to congratulate everybody. Not only engaging with the residents, which is the most important element of it, but engaging with elected representatives as well, and keeping people updated and informed at every stage. There's many challenges in terms of this part of the waterside, not least the massive impact the traffic has along the Limavady Road. We've heard that on numerous occasions when engaging with residents around proposed developments. This has got the potential to alleviate some of those problems and become a massive positive for this part of the waterside. So more than happy to second the proposal, and again congratulate all officers who have been involved in it. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Alderman McClintock.
Thanks, Chair, and I'm not a member of the committee, and my colleague has spoken on this, so I'll be very, very brief. Obviously, congratulating officers on what they've done, but just in terms of time frame, could officers give us any indication how long this next stage will take, the design stage? And just thinking forward, have we any idea of the completed time frame, but even this particular part of it? Thank you, Chair.
Through you, Chair. Members, it's difficult for us to actually give a timescale at this stage, but we can perhaps bring a report back to members once we've engaged, I suppose, further with the Department for Communities in terms of passing the consultation responses on to them as outlined in the report, and I will arrange for officers to bring a further report back to committee once we move on to that stage and have a timeline for the detailed design, members, which will, again, as you will know, all be subject to funding, etc., in terms of being able to deliver
Thank you, Chair. Could I just briefly sort of thank Karen for that? And just my thinking for asking that question, Karen, is in case any of the individual groups are looking for funding, and I'm thinking of the sporting fraternity, if opportunities arise, just trying to think if there would be opportunities for them. That's why I was wondering about the time frame, so a report would be excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman McClintock. No further indicated speakers on this item. It has been proposed by Alderman Hamzy, seconded by Councillor Jackson, and I'm not sensing any dissenting voices from it. So we'll move then to item 16, which is the products containing glyphosate, and it's Karen once again to take this report.
Thank you, Chair and members. The purpose of the report is to update members in terms of some previous concerns raised by members in terms of the use of glyphosate, and asking member or officers to engage with our partners on the Green Infrastructure Working Group around this particular issue. And members, we actually did engage with the stakeholders. We also hosted a meeting to discuss this particular issue, and members, the background in terms of the notice of motion is contained within your report, and members, the key under your key issues of the report today, we outline the responses that we've been able to feed back to you from the various green infrastructure partners in the city and district. And members, really, I know and mindful of members' comments in relation to this particular issue, and I suppose in terms of, as we touched upon earlier, internally throughout the directorate, we've been working to try and actually see how we can find practical ways to implement the notice of motion, and also, I suppose, do some more detailed learning in terms of glyphosate, how it's actually used, and risks, etc. And members, I would suggest perhaps it might be useful to hold a members' workshop to go through this with members in a bit more detail, and basically get members' views and discuss, I suppose, in a lot more detail than we would have at committee, some of the findings of, I suppose, the research that we've done and the alternatives, the current impact of being able to try and, I suppose, implement the notice of motion, and also I suppose some of our findings on research, etc. So members, today I suppose we could have brought this in just for members to note in terms of for information, but what we would do is we would like to seek your views in terms of organising a workshop with members, and you know, happy to take any comments that members have at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Alderman Devaney, go ahead, Morris.
Thank you, Chair, and thank Karen for bringing forward the recommendation here. I believe it's a good move forward, Chair. It will educate some of us around the use of glyphosate, and I do appreciate there are concerns with members of the committee and the motion that went before council, but there are some areas, Chair, where, you know, in my opinion, that we need to use it, because as we walked through Strabane, we looked at a number of areas where the weeds were unearthing the flagstones and the area that people were walking on. So I do understand the concerns, Chair, and I have no problem in proposing the recommendation here that officers set up a workshop so members can go and see the issues and see how we work on this as we move forward. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks for that, Morris. Councillor Ferguson.
Chair, no, again, I want to thank Karen for bringing this forward. I'm happy to be a part of the workshop. I think this is something that we do need to discuss. I think, you know, the motion was right in trying to limit as much as possible the use, because they have been deemed as a carcinogenic, and I understand members' concerns when it comes to seeing weeds in the streets, but I think we need to look at alternative ways, because at this moment in time, I would rather have weeds in the streets than have worries of, you know, young children putting their hands down on the ground and having that kind of weed killer coming into contact with them, especially around our play parks. So I'm fully supportive of the original motion, that we only use it with things like Japanese knotweed, where in extreme cases, and we look at alternative ways. I understand the concerns of members saying in the rural areas where it needs a bit of a tidy up, but I don't think that should deem us using the chemicals again in our weed killers. I think we just need to look at alternatives, especially with the way we're looking at climate change and the introduction to so many chemicals in our society and body. So happy to be part of the workshop chair, and happy to second if it hasn't been seconded.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Logue, and note you had indicated to come on before this issue actually came on the agenda, so we'll bring you in now. Go ahead, Councillor Logue.
Thank you, Chair, and members will recall that it was myself who brought this motion on the council, but I'm happy to say that it was a collective decision to accept it. I do welcome the proposal of a workshop. Although I'm not a member of this committee, I would hope that that workshop is given to all members of the council. But as well as that, I do think that the invite should be widened out to there are experts out there in the field. I know the university did a bit of work on the use of glyphosate, and of course, when I was bringing on this motion, I worked closely with the Pink Ladies. There are other organisations out there too who would have expert knowledge on this, and I think it would only be right that we get a full picture. I am aware the council officers have done a bit of work, but I do think it would be worthwhile bringing on those other outside agencies too as well. And I suppose with the luxury now of Zoom, we're able to reach a lot of people that we may not have in the past. So I would look forward to the workshop, and I hope maybe somebody can propose that we bring on others, including the Pink Ladies, the university, and I do have other groups that I could pass on to Karen, who could contribute to this workshop. I am aware that there are major issues with weeds. They're everywhere, and I do know that the FIE have the main responsibility for roads and footpaths. And even though they still use glyphosate, it is not the answer. Glyphosate only discolors, in my opinion, the weeds, and what is left is big yellow clumps. So you're really only changing the colour. And we really need to be working collectively to address this issue. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Patricia. Councillor O'Neill.
Thanks, Chair, and I would agree with Councillor Logue, and I'm happy to propose, you know, what her kind of extension to the proposal from Karen, in that when we do this workshop, we invite the Pink Ladies, we invite Pesticide Action Network UK. So they're like the expert body who like work with councils all across the regions on you know, on this exact issue. So I think if we invite Pink Ladies and other community health and environmental groups to this, but I think like the other important bodies they invite to this is, you know, the Education Authority, DFI, and also the one body who we wrote to, but he didn't write back, is the Western Trust as well, because I am actually really alarmed at the amount of glyphosate which is being used in our communities. And it's interesting. I get a lot of calls about people using weed killers in our communities, and as opposed to Alderman Hussey's or other people's concerns about the weeds in our communities. And I think people are really, really concerned about these chemicals, which are, really increase the risk of cancer or endocrine disrupting. Never mind the impact that they have on our local species, like our bee species and things. So yeah, I am very alarmed at the continued use of this. In some countries, Roundup has been withdrawn from commercial use in the United States and in France, and there has been like class action court cases as well due to occupational health difficulties with the use of these chemicals too. So I think the workshop I think will be very timely. I think it's very important, and I think it would be excellent if we could broaden it to those public authorities as well as community health and environmental groups.
Chair, can I just come back in there on that particular point? Members, what we are proposing today is a workshop with members in the first instance, so that we can provide the opportunity for members to be able to, I suppose, understand these issues that we face in a bit more detail. Members, happy to involve a number of experts, but members, we're not proposing today that we have a workshop involving various environmental groups, community groups, and all the statutory partners at this stage. Members, I think that would be very, very difficult for members to basically get the information that we need to discuss first, I suppose, from a council perspective before we widen it out. Members, I would suggest perhaps that we would have the members workshop in the first instance, and perhaps we can consider what experts we can bring in to actually inform members on that. And then members, at that stage, you can decide whether or not it's appropriate to have a wider stakeholder forum with other wider stakeholders, such as our partners and community and environmental organisations. So members, that's particularly our views from an officer perspective, but happy to take the steer of the committee on that particular point. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Karen. Councillor Logue, having heard what Karen has said there, are you happy to proceed on that basis? I know that you have put a proposal in the box there, but as I said there, having heard what Karen said, are you willing to hold off, or do you wish to proceed?
Well, I do think it would be worthwhile to have all those experts and other stakeholders at the table, but maybe it would be, I suppose, maybe logical to have that first meeting just with councillors, but I would hope that it's all councillors, Karen, that it's given out to full council rather than just members of this committee. But I do see the merit in having the meeting with the wider stakeholder group, but like you said, maybe they understand the difficulties within our own council, first of all, might be the way forward. So I would have no problem with that.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, absolutely. Councillor Logue, we would want to invite all members who want to take part.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Logue, and thanks, Karen. That has been proposed by Alderman Devaney, seconded by Councillor Boyle, and I'm not sensing any opposition to it, so I'll take that as unanimous once again. Members, as I said at the outset of the meeting, items 17 to 21 are for information only. Because of time constraints, I'm proposing that we would go into confidential now, so that we get decisions taken on those items that need a decision taken on. And if any member then wishes to raise any of the items for information, we can then come back out of committee. So
No proposed, Chair, to go into confidential.
I second that, Chair John.
Proposed by Alderman Devaney, seconded by Councillor Boyle. Can we just get confirmation then